Hello and welcome to Trial TV Live and our recap of the Paul Caneiro trial. This is week 2. I'm very, very excited and happy to bring my co-host Claire Bear from Clairview onto the stage to talk about what happened. And again, Claire, well, welcome. First of all, welcome. But again, another crazy week. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Short, but definitely jam-packed this
Yeah,
week, wasn't
yeah.
it?
And then of course the news that everybody is talking about is this impending storm that
Hmm.
caused the court to make a decision. Do you want to tell the people what happened today at the very, very end?
At the very, very end, Judge Lamo announced not only are we free for the afternoon, but don't bother coming back Monday because we're all going to be covered in snow.
Yep.
Oh, and he demanded snow angels or snowman pictures from the juries when they come
Right.
back, like if they come back. I love his humor. I did. I kind of had an idea because my borough is right here where the courthouse is. Like I live like blocks from this courthouse. And
Mm,
I knew
mm,
the borough already sent me notices about moving my car, staying off the road Monday. They need to be
mm.
able to clean, that most offices would be closed except for emergency. So I'm like, there's no
Right.
way they're gonna have court.
Yeah.
There's no way. I mean, if the
Yeah.
borough is already closing, like of course they're gonna close. But
Hmm.
I didn't want to say it because he hadn't announced it yet.
Hmm.
But
Well,
surprising today, like getting the afternoon off.
yeah, no, I was just talking to Aaron about that. I'm like, aside from the snow storm, would they have, it seems like that this was the only witness for today. So they would have closed early or they would have ended early today either way. What do you
Well,
think?
they ended early for public. There's nothing on the record, but apparently they're having an attorney conference and Paul Caneiro can be there.
Okay.
And they're going over some things because some curious. I have to tell you, the way he ended, like if you caught some of the things that he said at the end, I
Hmm.
had made a note about one of them last week that I was going to bring up, but I wanted to, before I mentioned it, I wanted to think on it a little bit.
Sure.
But from the beginning of the trial, we've been noting that he is often objecting to the way the defense is like formulating their questions or kind of putting the story out there before the questioner gets out there or not letting the witness answer or, asking the same question over and over again.
Hmm.
Like, and he says it while the jury is still there, like his first thing in
Hmm.
his tone. And I was like, I wonder if the defense attorney is going to bring it up that he's actually prejudicing the jury right now, like right now, with
Hmm.
like they're stepping out of line or they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing.
Hmm.
Because even we did like all, and from comments I'm getting on my video and things I'm seeing out there, everybody's saying, this defense team this and this defense team that, like what are they doing, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
And really, with such a long trial, like, it's pretty bad to have that kind of an attitude right away, like, out of the box. And he
Right.
addressed it today. He actually addressed it before the jury left. He said,
Hmm.
"Whatever I say out here for an objection, sustained or not, has nothing to do with how you look at, like, the evidence or whatever, but if I tell you, like, you don't listen to an answer that somebody gave, that's
Hmm.
one thing. But how I address things or who I'm addressing, that should not pay no mind." And I was glad to hear him say it because if I was Miss Macedon right now and I saw it on her face all week, she not happy to
Yeah.
be portrayed is like not well. Okay. In the way that the judge has been responding to her from what
Yeah.
I saw. I mean,
He
did you see any of that or is that just me?
No, 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 no. No, he said specifically in my notes, he sustained an objection from the state and he said, "Come on, counselor, you know better than that." And it was about they didn't do an extraction of Corey or Jennifer's phone, and maybe something else was said, but it was right around there. And then there was the other thing with January, January 26th. That's what it was, a January 2026 text message. And he's like,
Mhm.
there's no way that this witness would know a text message that happened January 26th. That's way out of scope. So
Right.
no, he's very
Which is correct, but his wording and his tone needed to
exactly.
be more
He's not
neutral.
saying, "Can we have a
Right.
sidebar?" And then he yells at her, but he's like, "Come on, counselor, you know better than that." I mean, that's like whoa. And you're right, that could be viewed as prejudicial. It could be, especially if you're on Paul's side, you could be like, hey,
Especially as often as it happened in the first week. It was
mm-hmm,
less now. He did tone it down a little bit, but that
yep,
first week,
hmm,
I mean,
yeah,
barely, like, she was getting interrupted all and I do think she's out of line. Both her and Andy Murray have a way of framing their questions where they're telling the jury exactly what they want to tell the jury, and they really don't care what the witness says. Have you noticed that? Like,
yes,
it's not even a question for the witness. Basically, you might as well not answer. There's nothing they
right,
can
right,
contribute because they're just laying it all out for the jury
right,
however they want, and that has to be infuriating for the judge because like the prosecution seems to be used to it, but you can look at if you look at their faces, if you look at Christopher Decker with holding his head up
hmm,
while the defense is up there and just shaking his head like this is what I have to deal with, like what can I do about it? They're going to do what they're
yeah.
going to do.
I
It's
did.
up to you.
I'm sorry. I did notice that one. Yeah, Mr. Decker. At one point, he was like this. He's like, he was.
Yeah.
Is that what you're referring to? Something like that?
Yeah, he's like holding his head in the back, like he's big in the chair. He's holding his head up, and he's just like, "Where are they going with this? Like, this is ridiculous." And then
Hmm,
today, with the today especially with the emails and the text messages asking him, like, "Don't you remember all the conversations where he helped them and this and that?" He goes, "Yeah, there was some." Well, here's my problem with the defense. If you want to bring that up, okay, that whole those 4 binders have been entered into evidence. If
hmm,
you want the witness to address these conversations, why aren't you bringing them up there on the screen for the jury to see and put them into evidence as something the jury should pay attention to? Because at
hmm,
this point, it's just words, Miss Mastalone, that you're throwing out there at a
hmm,
witness and giving them the opportunity to say, I don't recall what you're talking about. And then
hmm.
everybody has to scramble to go get the evidence and, whatever
Yep.
totally not prepared, and that's a look she's bringing
Hmm,
on herself. That's a look
yeah.
both her and Andy Murray are continuously bringing on themselves as looking like they're a little scattered. I don't
Hmm,
think they are. They know the points that they wanna make. They're
hmm,
just not let's just say their process isn't
hmm,
helping them
hmm.
at all. Right.
So to Barry Adams' point, so it's not so much testifying through the questions, which she's definitely doing, but it's the constant paper shuffling. How many times? Maybe 5, 6, 7 times where she's like, it's a
Mhm.
long pauses. It's like minutes. It's not just like 10 or 20 seconds. It's like she goes back and she's
Right.
looking through stuff. I mean, it's that's very evident to me. And the
Yeah,
jury
and she
is
knew
picking
she
up on
wanted to bring up those issues about Paul being helpful, so where were the conversations? Why didn't you have it there to
that.
point the witness to it and make the witness read it and get it on the record and have an impact with the jury? And I don't mean to do her job for her, but yeah, I'm doing her
Hmm,
job for her right now. I'm going, "That's not good. You could do
yeah,
better." I'm not
yeah,
even a lawyer, and I know that that was, like, not good, like, not good.
right.
That's not impactful for a jury.
Right. So I just want to remind you guys, if you have questions, do QQQ, do 3
Mhm.
Qs, and we'll star them, and we'll get to them throughout the show. But I'm just pulling up a couple right at the top of this stream. So scattered look for appeal purposes. What do you think about that? Do you think she's doing this deliberately just for appeal purposes?
I don't think scatterbrain is actually an option in the appeals, and
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if so, like John Prine, let's just mention some really bad defense attorneys out there. Would
Mhm.
not there have been an automatic appeal in a new trial based on John Prine's uh, behavior in the Daybell trial? He got walked all over,
I'm
like
trying to
seriously.
remember that trial. I don't know that you're talking about the with the
Chad
kids.
Daybell trial,
Oh, with
his attorney.
no,
Yeah.
prior. That was prior.
Oh, Pryor. I said
Yeah, yeah,
Prine.
okay.
Sorry. Yes,
No, no,
John
it's okay.
Prine.
I just wanna make sure I had the right trial.
Yeah, you had
Um,
the right trial.
yeah.
I had the wrong last name.
Right, right. Yeah, no, we'll get together. We'll get it together. Yeah, he was, I did not like him at all. I was not a fan of his at all.
I don't think he did Mr. Daybell much good. It like talk about scatterbrained, like because if
Yeah.
scatterbrained was an option, like that man wouldn't be sitting on death row right now. He'd be having another trial for sure.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. So
I'm trying to think of trials that I've watched where I'm like, "Wow, that was a terrible defense," and I'm
how,
not thinking it.
How about Lori Vallow?
Oh,
She
well,
did
pro se for sure. Daryl Brooks. Yeah, we could go there.
Daryl
But
Brooks, yes, that one for sure. He did more damage to himself with that. That judge was the most patient judge, the most law-abiding, like believing in justice and everybody gets a shot judge I've ever seen.
she
Uh,
was
and she
Judge
wasn't even
Duro.
gray by the end of it. Bless
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
Like,
Judge Duro. Yeah, she was great.
yeah,
And then she applied, I think, for the Supreme Court of Wisconsin, I believe, and then she didn't make it, or she, yeah, I think you had to run for it or something, but she
yeah.
didn't make it. Um,
Oh,
but anyway, all right. So let's get into day two. Obviously, the big news is the snowstorm coming, so that's going to dominate our headlines
mhm.
for next week as well. But what did you think? Like, just we'll start again with like high level, 30,000 foot. Like, what were your impressions? Obviously, no court on Monday for Martin Luther King
Mhm.
Jr. But what did you think about? Just like what jumped out at you just overall, and then we can dive deeper into each day.
Well, finally, we were getting some concrete evidence on the timeline, like
Hmm.
why they think the timeline is the way it is, what led them to this, and why opening statements were the way they were. We're starting to see what
Hmm.
they have. Okay.
Right.
Um, and I know that some of that can be really, really tedious because, on the one hand, this week was extremely tedious for onlookers because of the rules of evidence. New Jersey, like many states, with the rules of evidence, Article 9 is a chain of custody.
Hmm.
Whoever collected the evidence, how they collected the evidence, where they got the evidence, and where it started from point A has
Hmm.
to be documented appropriately, meticulously, and entered into court that way. So
Right.
most of Lieutenant Castellano's testimony was monotonous in ongoing and about this piece and this piece, but
Hmm.
there was an actual lot there when you see that everything they have and how they found it
Hmm.
in and then we had the reaffirmation of the discovering of the bodies. We had the heartbreaking recant of Lamarca actually still tearing up and choking up at his experience,
Hmm.
which was a moment for me because, I mean, it's been 7 years and we forget how these cases affect the first responders who are the first
Hmm.
on the scene, the firefighters and the police who are dealing with these tragedies
Hmm.
from the start in how this affects their daily life. And just, he's the one who found Sophia's body and brought it out. And she's such a tiny young child, 8 years old. And this is such a horrible situation. And
Hmm.
just to hear him recant it and just trying to hold back his emotion, that was a moment for me. Like, I had to take a step back and remember what they do for us,
Hmm.
out
Yeah.
there for as law enforcement and first responders.
Yeah. I,
But
I agree with you. The timeline today with the text messages of Keith having those three text messages at what, like
mhm.
3:15, 3:16, 3:18. Um, Basically, he's texting his brother Paul saying, "Hey, my power just went out. I'm downstairs in the basement. What should I do? I'm going to go out to the
Mhm.
generator to see what's going on out there." And that is essentially his last communication with anybody before he's
With
before he.
anyone, yeah, so it secured a timeline onto when the shots could have actually happened, which
Mhm.
which lines up with the, our lovely, I think someone just got whacked neighbor.
Right, right, right.
What a
Who was
moment,
he?
right? Like,
Dennis,
and he's actually ashamed that he thought that and said that to himself. He's like, "I'm so ashamed I actually thought that," but Miss
right?
Methadone wasn't, as she repeated it several times like it was nothing. Like,
I know. Um,
yeah.
what? Okay, yeah. So I sent you the timeline, and I've been
Mhm.
updating it and sharing it with our chat. Um, let's go over it and tell me what you think.
Before we do that, I want to ask you a question about those 3 text messages because
Sure.
something occurred to me at the end.
Right.
Like, you mentioned those, and yes, they do secure the timeline as far as when shots could have happened or when Keith actually stopped existing, last communication.
Right.
But do you think that Miss Mastellon's last question to the detective, the digital forensics detective, that
Mhm.
she actually helped the prosecution with that by putting forward why Keith would be texting Paul about why his generator isn't working or whatever? actually her questions on doesn't Paul help were all about Paul fixing things and helping Keith fix things and knowing about how things work in Keith's house,
Mm,
about the generator, about the AC, about the electricity. I
right.
think she actually inadvertently helped the jury understand why Keith would be texting Paul at 3 o'clock in the morning if his generator didn't work.
Yeah, that's a good point. And to that point, I think she's done that a handful of times where she's actually advanced the state's theory.
Mhm.
That being one of them. Um, uh, uh, Keith being the hothead, but maybe he's a hothead only towards Paul, and Keith is usually pretty
Exactly.
calm. So
Mhm.
then, like, why would you want to continue to let the jury know that Paul and Keith have this abrasive relationship? Um, uh,
She
uh,
keeps bringing it up, and yet the only evidence that they have of Keith being a hothead goes all the way back to a failed loan application,
mhm,
one message, one email, and then his relationship with Paul, which means
yeah,
is Paul giving him a reason to be a
mhm,
hothead? I mean, it seemed like Keith was just tired of this. Like, you know, not that, everybody's trying to avoid taxes in business and all, and you're setting stuff up and you want to do the right thing. But is it possible that Keith had an issue with
mhm,
having to pay the wife instead of Paul because
mhm,
Paul wants to collect from federal disability and you can't have income? Like, does he want to have to portray things in the business like the wrong way so that it's sellable because of things that are Paul doing? I mean, this must be annoying him. He wants to move on. It sounds to me like he is just tired of having to do things he doesn't necessarily agree with 100% just for his family and to protect his family. And it might have been just a long-term thing, you know?
mhm, yeah.
Um,
I agree in the sense that in that text exchange that was read to us, Keith was definitely the one that was swearing more, right? Paul never
mhm,
really cussed back at him. Keith was the one that was like, I've been basically carrying you for the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Yes, you
mhm,
helped me in 2011, I think, when he was going to his for his master's or whatever.
mhm.
Meaning Keith was going to school, and he didn't have any money, and Paul was helping him, but he said, you were making $350,000 a year.
Oh, and a
And it was
raise you gave yourself, by the way, like in a 50-50 business, just gave it to himself.
right, right. So, so and when those texts were being read, I'm like, oh, I know the defense is going to come back and say, look, see, here's the proof. Keith is the hothead. Keith is the one that's swearing. But
Mhm,
Keith is upset because Paul is stealing from him. Paul is taking money. He's like going to basically cut him out of,
I think the jury sees that. They see
yeah.
theft. They see him being shady with the
Hmm.
government. They see
Hmm.
him being shady and how he wants to deal things. I think they would actually think that Keith has every right and are surprised he's not cursing more,
Hmm.
actually. You
Yeah.
know, and as far as the cursing, you would be surprised. It's kind of like a second language here in Jersey sometimes. I hate to categorize it so like that, but
Hmm.
it's not that unusual. Whether we would be upset or not, he could have
Hmm.
been speaking that way.
Yeah.
You know,
I I I don't know if it's necessarily a New Jersey thing, but I think people, yeah, I would go so far
I
as
think
people,
it's
especially
just
brothers.
casual.
Yeah.
Brothers, that age group, and having
Yeah.
those kinds of conversations, of
Yeah, yeah,
course,
yeah. Yeah.
it's not that big a thing. I,
Yeah.
I, I really don't think, you know.
Yeah. What was more, I mean, a text is one thing because you can never really read into fully a text because you all know that texts can be misinterpreted. But the phone call, we heard the phone call again, and I thought we were going to hear it from Paul's side. I'm like, oh, we're going to hear from Paul's side, but it was actually Keith's side
I
again.
actually think his calm demeanor works against him. I mean, psychopaths and sociopaths are very calm
Oh, I see what you're
individuals.
saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so do you think that his attorneys have told him show no emotion? Meaning Paul. Paul is showing no emotion. Maybe occasionally he'll,
I mean, don't most defense attorneys, I think it's like defense 101, do not
mhm,
give the jury anything to react to or judge you by. I think so.
yeah.
Show emotion when emotion needs to be, but otherwise, like, try to stay neutral. He's on display in front of that jury.
Hmm.
At least we don't see him changing his demeanor like we did with some others. As soon as the jury left the room, they were like smiling like Murdaugh and cracking up with their attorneys, and then
Right.
being all somber,
Right.
and dejected when the jury came back in as like wounded puppies.
Hmm.
Like that annoys me. At least his is constant. Although we did see in the hearings, and I think you've played a lot of the hearings for your audience. He did joke around a lot with his attorneys and all when they were like before it was serious. You could see him smiling,
Yeah.
talking with them, a much different demeanor than what we're seeing in live trial,
Hmm. Yeah.
which is very stoic,
Agreed.
very non-reaction. But then
Yeah.
again, that's the same man I saw on video. That's the same man turning off the DVR. That's the same man caught in all those photographs preparing to
Hmm.
go to Colts Neck. I mean,
He's
he
got he's I don't know if you could say he's got a cold heart. I'm sure some of our chat would say he's got a cold heart. Other people would say he's stoic. Other his defenders would say I'm not even sure what his defenders would say, but I don't know. I don't know. So, all right.
speak.
So go ahead. I was going to
Go
dive
ahead.
into
I was
day
gonna say,
day
Bender,
five. Go ahead.
like his wife and his grown daughters, who even though he tried to burn them down in a house,
Hmm.
mm, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, so again, I want to get into day five because day five started out with is it Yacel or Giselle? Yacel?
It's you know what the before the trial they were reporting it as Isla, and now they say Giselle, and I think it's Isla. I'm not sure, but
Okay,
on the record for the court, it's Giselle
okay,
Restrepo. So I guess that's her name. She would have
okay,
had to show ID.
okay,
So.
okay. So she testifies. She was that was the big for me. That was the big moment for day five. She let's see, she wasn't first. They had Dr. Boris Volstein was first. He was the plastic
Mhm,
surgeon. He actually his landscaper called him, and then he called 911 for the fire. But for my
mhm,
notes, I thought uh, Giselle was more interesting than that. So let's
mhm.
talk about her for a little bit. What were your takeaways from her testimony?
I think she was a cooperative but hostile witness. There's no way she was going to say anything against Paul.
Hmm.
She answered everything yes or no. I don't personally. She knows that Paul is married. I don't give a lot of credit there on whether she would be truthful or not.
Hmm.
Because she's coming from for me from a dishonest place to begin with.
Hmm.
And I don't think we learned much. We knew most of this information already, but I will say it was a win for the defense in how they weren't allowed to bring up too many intimate details in regards to the relationship. That was a pre-trial win on scope for the
Hmm.
defense. It
Hmm.
wasn't harped on. The relationship was to stay in a certain box, and
Hmm.
because they didn't have evidence or this, that, or other thing, they weren't allowed to make a big deal out of it. They weren't
Hmm.
allowed to put any, moral judgments or this or that on that. And the scope of the questions was just basic facts based on the financial crimes, because basically that's all she's there for.
Hmm.
um she's not a character witness.
Right.
The prosecution was not able to use her as a character witness against Paul in any way, and that
Hmm.
was a win for pretrial motions. I have to say, although I am not appreciative of Monica Massalone's or Annie Murray's trial style,
Hmm.
their legal style pre-trial for the motions they did and the wins that they got, I give them a gold star
Hmm.
because the scope is very limited on certain things. Did you see how the arson specialist is only for the one property, right?
I was hoping that they'd have another one for Keith's property. I'm
Well,
still
they
waiting.
used well, we did. We had two actually already for Colts Neck. And well, we had Fannigan, who was the fire chief at the time for
Hmm.
Wanamassa, who was a horrible witness for both the defense and the prosecution. I've never seen such a double speak, really horrible witness ever. I mean, the way he testified, you would wonder how he even had the job that he had,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
he's like, I wasn't there
Hmm.
to examine incendiary fire. I mean,
Hmm.
police are showing him evidence of that the fire could have been arson, and he's the fire chief, And
Right.
he's saying to the court, I wasn't there. By the way, there is the crime scene where
Mm-hmm.
the arson supposedly may have happened. And he's like, I wasn't there to investigate an incendiary fire.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, really, sir?
Yeah.
What did
Even
you
though he
get
said
your
it
paycheck
was,
for?
even
Even
though
though it's
he said,
exactly
yeah, he said it was an incendiary fire, which means it was set, on purpose.
on
And
purpose.
yet somebody else had to come in to do the investigation. So you're right. That didn't make sense.
It was a horrible,
Yeah.
horrible witness for both sides.
But we haven't heard from Keith's from Colts Neck. We haven't had a fire inspector there yet, have
No,
we?
we had one, not a fire inspector. We just had someone speak on the fire. We had all of the fire departments speak on it, the ones
Right.
that were there.
Right.
So I don't know if that's still coming, but I know in pre-trial
Yeah.
they did limit the scope of that, and that they had to keep it to two separate the evidence, because not one person investigated both. And so it
Right.
wouldn't be fair to bring in a fire expert who hadn't actually examined both scenes, like, at the time. I mean, you can overview everything everybody else did,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not really gonna be as impactful. That was another win for the defense in
Mm-hmm.
pretrial.
Mm-hmm. All right. So they're limiting some of the damage, but one poll that we took so far, what is the most compelling evidence presented? And we had a pile of bloody clothes in the basement, one with 29%, Paul turning off the DVR at 27%, video showing the SUV at Keith's house was 24%, and the angry texts and phone calls at 20%. So the way I read that is usually our polls are a little bit more skewed with, like, 70, 80% one way
Mhm.
and 20, 30 or less on another. To me, this shows that's four solid bits of information. Some of it shows motive, some of it shows, means. But to me, that's a pretty even split between four pieces of evidence. So if I'm Paul in the defense right now, I'm like, wow, those are four things we haven't even heard about GPS yet. We haven't heard about the SUV and
Right.
GPS. We haven't heard about the DNA yet. We haven't heard from the medical examiner. So that's four bits of information,
Mhm.
evidence, if you will, and they're all pretty evenly stacked. And like, what do you think about that? Do you think, like, from a defense standpoint, would you be a little worried that that's four kind of evenly
Well,
matched bits of evidence? What do you think?
I do think, I have said, over the last few days, that the mountain the defense has to climb to overcome the circumstantial evidence is getting higher,
Mm-hmm.
because it's one thing to have circumstantial evidence. It's another thing to have circumstantial evidence that all links to each other
Mm-hmm.
accurately and within a timeline. And that's
Mm-hmm.
when it becomes really damaging for the defense. It's going to be impossible. Andy Murray tried what he could with the mention of Wi-Fi, which had
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do with the DVR,
Right.
to try to skew the jury that, oh, him turning that off means nothing
Mm-hmm.
because he was having problems with the system. Well, are you forgetting that Paul Caneiro lied to the police and said he was in bed with medication and was sleeping soundly? How could
Mm-hmm.
he be in two places at once? And do you actually think the jury is stupid? Like,
Mm-hmm.
he said, and how many times was that mentioned by the first responders and law enforcement? Paul Caneiro said this, and
Mm-hmm.
then we found that. Paul
Mm-hmm.
Caneiro's own words are what made him the suspect from day one. Paul
Mm-hmm.
Caneiro's own words led them to what they led to. And that's going to be really hard for the defense to overcome. He's lying to the police. Why? Do innocent men need to lie from the start?
Right.
I
No.
mean, I can
No.
see trying to hedge your questions and not giving information once you know that they're looking at you like you might have done something. But from the start,
Mm-hmm.
no. The
Yeah.
innocent men don't need to do that. And
Right.
I'm sure the jury's keyed on to that. At least I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, that was it from the start. And he
Mm-hmm.
was lying from the start.
Yeah. So just quickly back to Giselle Restrepo. So she admitted to going to Colombia twice to visit family.
Mhm.
She admitted on going on trips with Paul. Paul paid.
Mhm.
So she went to Colombia twice. She went to Las Vegas, which you reminded
Mhm.
me this afternoon.
North Carolina, New
North,
York,
yep.
yeah,
I think Boston was
Maine,
thrown in there too.
Boston,
So
Boston, yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
So
and can I remind you, all of this is within the 9 months that they've been having this secret relationship. Like,
mhm.
they have been well traveled all over the place, like, they're living the high life.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
And then it came out through other testimony, I think through the fire inspector, that the fire was started in the basement and it went up to the master bedroom, which was Susan's bedroom, and that Paul was sleeping in another bedroom. And then we also found out in a text message that Paul, I think, sent to Keith about we're looking into a divorce. We're separated now and we're looking into the divorce. So
They
it's
Yes,
clear.
and then he moved back home
Mhm,
prior to this incident, like, I think right before November, like, right at the beginning of November. To
mhm,
me, that's very, very sus. He was
mhm,
living in a separate residence. It's indicated through articles that it wasn't Giselle Raspreto's apartment, but a
mhm.
separate residence that he was living in for like 8 months. And
Okay.
then, why did he move back home?
Mhm,
Was it monetarily? Because he's in a separate bedroom? Is it
mhm,
because, like, they're gonna go through the divorce and for money? Mm, based
mhm.
on what I've seen, the way he operates, it's always about money, so it was
Yeah.
probably that. I doubt that they were getting back together, but if
Mhm,
I was the wife and you started a fire in the well outside the window that is right underneath my bedroom,
mhm.
why am I in court defending you?
Right, right.
I'm just wondering, did you catch what the judge said about a witness that they
Yes,
were gonna have to go over, and that there might be third party guilt that had to be
yes.
hammered out before? I do think they're talking about Susan Caneiro there.
Yep, it's either Corey or Susan, right? Those would be the only 2 that could possibly be, that we've heard
Right.
about so far.
Because third party guilt could mean 2 things. It could mean somebody's guilty of something along with the charges that are here,
Mhm,
which, or it could be third party guilt as a defense,
mhm.
and then it would be Corey, right?
Right, right.
So
That's
if
what I was
it's
thinking.
Susan Caneiro, she has to be careful about what she admits to in court, because
Mhm,
she's been paid on the books for work that Paul does, trying to
mhm.
get away from, him getting his disability taken away,
Right.
and admitting to an illegal act. That's a criminal act, that
Mhm,
that she could be charged with. Um, but the other one is just trying to put the guilt on a third party sharing the guilt. That would be a defense.
mhm,
So it's either way, both of those witnesses I'm very excited to hear from.
mhm.
Either way, it's
Yeah.
going to be great.
Yeah, 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 it was he teased it. He said, "Things may come up next week," and then he says, "And we all know what that means." And then he talks about limited instructions, so third-party guilt. So that to me means somebody's going to testify, and he's going to give instructions to the jury, that they're only to be, pay attention to this, don't pay attention to that. And it has to do with third-party guilt. So I always thought that third-party guilt was, yeah, somebody else, somebody else did it, basically. I didn't do it. It was another person that did it. Um, so yeah, to me that means Corey. That was first. My first thing was like Corey and then Susan for sure. Those 2
Mhm.
are the only 2 that I can think of that have been mentioned so far. Um,
Mhm.
with
And
any,
I'm glad it's coming out about Corey, because Corey contacted them and gave them information right away.
mhm,
And, like, I think that is a bone of contention with Paul. I think the reason that the defense goes so hard about this, if you think about it, by default, Corey has everything Paul wanted. Corey is now running
mhm,
both those businesses. Neither one has been sold.
mhm,
He is now the one that's benefiting from all the profits there. He's the one that received the $1.5 million. He is now the de facto trustee of the account and the
mhm,
assets of Keith Caneiro's um, estate.
mhm,
So, like, in other words, he's holding the bag of all the winnings that this
mhm,
alleged crime was performed for. And so it's a bit of sour grapes there, I'm sure. But when it comes to Listen, there are things that they presented in this trial that there's no way they can actually put on Corey. Did Corey have access to the trust fund? No.
Nope.
Did Corey make any of these payments to himself into his own bank account? No.
Nope.
Was he
Hmm.
actively in a partnership with Keith Caneiro? No. Was
Nope.
he the one doing any of this shady business or preventing Keith from selling the business? No.
Nope.
Was he a beneficiary? Yes.
Hmm.
But if anything happened to Keith and his family, that would be the only benefit to him, okay,
Hmm.
unless he took Paul out too. But
Hmm.
it actually, to me, leads to motive of Paul trying to pin it on Corey.
Hmm.
Like maybe this is where he was going all alone. If I burn up my own house, then they'll go to Corey. Corey will go to jail, and I'll have $3 million.
Hmm.
Because
Yep.
if Corey went to jail for it, he wouldn't get his 1.5.
Hmm.
You know?
Exactly.
So when they say greed and desperation is the motive behind these crimes, I believe it.
Hmm.
I do believe that to this day, Paul is still trying to set Corey up for it, but he forgets that Keith was his own person and that Keith behind the scenes was telling Corey everything
Hmm.
from the start. They were confidants. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's come out in the trial too that Keith was sending Corey messages about the conversations with Paul and how bad things were going.
Hmm.
He CC'd him on several of the conversations they had
Okay.
in an email. Yeah.
Oh, in the email. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So let's keep on Corey. So another little bit of information that came out was that Corey told law enforcement, he was with his in-laws, with his kids, I believe
Mhm.
the night of, and then the fires happen. He finds out. He said and he shows up at Paul's house. So Paul calls him. I don't have the exact time, but I wrote it down. I'll find it in a second.
Mhm.
Paul calls him. He shows up at Paul's house, but he told law enforcement he couldn't drive at night due to an eye condition.
Mhm.
So I
One
was
of the
kind of
reasons
wondering,
he was eliminated, as a suspect. Yeah.
right? But then I'm like, well, then how did he get to Paul's house? Because it was still, I think Jane looked it up. That sun doesn't rise until quarter to seven in November 20th in New Jersey. So it would still be
Mhm.
dark at 6:30. It would still be, especially 6 o'clock. It would still be dirty. Still
Well,
be
one, we
pretty
don't know
dark.
if he drove
Uh,
himself there or if his wife drove him there. We
right.
don't know.
Then there's
We don't
that.
know who drove him there.
Right.
Like, there's no more testimony on that. Maybe we will hear that. Number
Right.
2, he didn't leave for Pennsylvania until after that visit.
Right.
Once he saw the fires and everything, and Paul saying, like, maybe Paul said something to him about he thinks the family is being targeted. His wife gave testimony to the police that day that Corey had received messages from Keith and that for their safety that he was leaving.
Hmm.
Now, the police also went that night to Pennsylvania, and Corey cooperated 100% and has
Hmm.
ever since.
Yep.
Given testimony, came back, gave them, well, like, I don't think it was unreasonable for him to put his kids in the car and go to her parents, okay?
Hmm. Right.
If something was going on. Remember how upsetting it is. There's a whole family that's been annihilated, and
Hmm.
there's 2 house fires in the same family.
Hmm.
And it looks like both families may have been targeted. If you were their brother, you'd skip town too. I think you would
Absolutely.
go. But did
Yeah.
they leave without telling the police? Absolutely not. The police knew where Corey was the whole time
Yeah.
to
So
cooperate.
Corey's at his in-laws the night of, so November 20th at night, or the 19th
Mhm.
actually. He probably goes back to his house, around whatever, 10, 11, 12 o'clock, whatever. And then he gets the phone call at 5:30 or 6, and we don't know if he took an Uber. We don't know if his wife drove him. We don't know anything about. We don't know how old his kids are. Maybe one of his kids drove. Who knows? And
Mhm.
then he meets with Paul, and then there he goes to Pennsylvania, and then he
With the
comes
kids.
back.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I don't. Do you know how close he lives? Do you know how close Corey lives to Paul? Do you have any idea?
No, because I had thought that he was living in Pennsylvania. I know her family's in Pennsylvania, and
Mhm.
I know that they did live in Pennsylvania for a while, but I don't know. It appears that they were somewhere in the area, either staying or living when the fires happened.
Okay. And
because they were in New Jersey. They
I
weren't
mean,
in
If you're
Pennsylvania.
on Eastern Pennsylvania, I mean, really wouldn't be that far of a drive, right? Would it be
No,
like,
I mean, New Jersey, although densely populated, you can get anywhere in New Jersey, the whole length of it in 3 hours or so, 3.5 hours or so,
yeah.
right?
So if you're
And
going across,
you can get
yeah,
to New York in an hour, Philadelphia in an hour and a half,
right.
Pennsylvania, you're across that border within an hour. So depending on even
Yeah.
Delaware, like depending on where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I thought. Even if he was living in Pennsylvania, if he's on the eastern part of it, he could be within an hour drive and, or
Mhm.
even less.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, I wasn't sure how close he lived. We know that Paul and Keith were about 12 miles or 20 minutes or so from each other. I
Mhm.
wasn't sure if Corey was in that area where he was.
Yeah,
But
in Colts Neck in Ocean Township are connected by we have the Garden State Parkway and Route 18, and
mhm,
both of these are like get you anywhere and out of state within 45 minutes, like
yeah.
in any direction, you know.
Hmm. Yeah. Yes, the Parkway, where I remember driving on the Parkway, and it's like I'm going 90, and it's like I'm in a parking lot. People are just flying by me. I'm like, geez, what's going on? Um, the Autobahn of America.
Mhm.
Uh, all
Yeah.
right, let's see. All right, so that was my notes for day 5. We had again we had Volstein, who he called 911 for the
He was
fire.
a card, wasn't he? Like, you know.
I thought, yeah, he was the plastic surgeon. He was pretty
Yeah, and he
interesting.
and at the end, he's like, "It's dead. It's dead. Hey, I ain't got time for this." He's like, hangs up on 9/11. It's just like that's so that to me, I was like, "Oh boy, there's Jersey representing itself. We're all like going at like such a fast speed about everything."
Right,
But
right,
here
right.
he is. "Oh, there's a dead body here. I told you about it. Do what you got to do. I'm out of here. Like I got a
Yeah,
meeting. Like I
I
gotta
know.
go."
Right. Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, he did. Yeah, you're right. He said it's dead. Yeah, he said it on
Yeah.
the phone on the 911 call. I'm like,
Uh huh.
oh, and that's your
There's
neighbor. That's your neighbor, and you know who that is.
no.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. He was in Trenton for a meeting with the state or something, right? Isn't and he got
Mhm.
called back or something?
Something
Yeah.
official,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we had Dr. Boris. We had Giselle Restrepo, which we talked about.
Mhm,
Carmelo Lamarca. He was the volunteer firefighter. Yeah,
yeah.
he was at Keith's
Mm,
house.
then we had our lead detective, the retired detective
Yeah,
Zerillo finished
Mahoney.
up. No,
Yeah.
no, first Zerillo. Didn't Zerillo on
Oh,
Monday come back?
I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. Oh, then he came back.
Mhm.
Yes, you're right. Yep, Zerillo came back. Yep.
And because
Yeah.
he's retired now, but he was the lead detective at the time for the crime scene over in
Mhm.
Colts Neck, correct? He was, yeah.
He looked like he was ready
He
to.
wrote the official warrant, the affidavit for probable cause.
Okay. Oh, is that what you sent me? Is that the thing you sent
Yes,
me? Mm,
that was it. Yep.
okay. Yeah.
Zerillo is the one, which means he was the lead at the
Hmm.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. He did you think that he wanted to be there testifying, or do you think he wanted to be somewhere else fishing or
Well,
doing?
he's retired now. I would think that's a given.
He was just like this the whole time. He's
He was
like his
like
eyes were half closed. He was like sitting back like this.
7 years, like, "Come on, I have to come back for this? Like, somebody couldn't read you this report? Like, come on."
I
Now,
know.
I don't blame him, but this is one of the loose ends he has to tie up before he can
Hmm.
actually enjoy his retirement
Retirement. Yeah.
peacefully. And
I
it's
wonder.
not the kind of case that you're really happy to be talking about. I mean, think
Right.
of all the things that are in this case. I mean, would yeah, I don't think anybody willingly wants to sit and have a great conversation, and maybe
Yeah.
he knew the defense attorneys, like,
Mhm.
maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder how many other cases he has to tie up. He's like, I just want to go fish. I just want to go be with my grandkids in Florida. you know. All right. Let's see. So Tyler Vadaracco, he was the chief volunteer. He was the
Mhm.
chief of the volunteer department. And then Ryan Mahoney, I thought he was
That was
spectacular.
a spectacular witness. Yep.
Yeah. I have a star next to his name, and it was a couple days ago, so I just want to review. Why did I have a star next to his name? He was spectacular. Let's see. Oh, he was the cameras. He was the one that had the
Yes,
cameras.
he
Yeah.
had to go through all the video surveillance from, all of the homes in the
Mhm.
area and everything,
He's the
and
one
then
that's set our timeline. He's the one that set our timeline
well,
off.
it was lovely that he gave the jury the visual. of
Mhm.
the actual shape of the picture of the Porsche, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then the actual video of the Porsche, so they could measure up why he thinks that's it
Mhm.
because of the curvature of it. This is a very distinct car. There's like not many cars that this could be.
Mhm.
There's no many other cars on the road. If I see it leaving here at 2 o'clock and I see it arriving over here at 2:50, and it's obviously the same car. And they
Mhm.
did it with the lights in the
Yep.
back, which are very distinctive, and the curvature of the front of the car. So
Mhm.
the most impactful shot for me was the car from the video on the road and a picture of the car stationary in black and white right below
Mhm.
it so they could match up the lines. To
Yep.
me, that was visually impactful, and I think it'll resonate very strongly with the jury that this isn't just circumstantial. This is like they might as well have got a license plate. Like
Mhm.
this is pretty
Yeah.
impactful.
I,
Yeah.
I thought so as well. I thought he A, like you said, he set the timeline. B, he showed the two photos, on top of each other. We took it a step further before they did that. I took a screenshot of the. I just picked a 2017
Mhm.
Macan and I put it on top of the photo from the
Mhm.
screenshot from the video. And it's not only you said it's the curvature, it's the lights, the tail lights, it's that black right by between the two wheels at the bottom of the doors. There's like a black strip that matched up. So to me, those were like what, the curvature, the frame, the headlights, the tail lights, and then that black strip at the bottom of the doors. I'm like,
Mhm.
it's the same car. It's the same. It's the same
It's gonna
vehicle.
be hard to deny it, and if you
Same.
notice, like, they really didn't make much headway with the defense in trying to deny that that was the car.
No. And Mr. Murray, first up, and I knew he was going to say this. His first thing was, "You didn't see who was driving that or how many people were in the SUV." So I knew he was going to go there, and of course he had to. I mean, what else? What else are you going to do? Yes, it's Paul's vehicle, or we're conceding that could be. We're conceding that could be Paul's vehicle, but you don't know who
Mhm.
was driving. Well, then who would be driving that? Susan, Caitlin.
Don't
Uh,
you wish that at one point, like, one of these detectives would have said, "You're absolutely right, Mr. Murray, so where were you at 2:07 on November 20th? Sir, would you let me know?" Yeah, because if you're gonna make the whole world the suspect, well, that
mhm.
is you too.
That
Yeah.
means you too. That means you too. That's funny. All right, so let me. I've been dying to do this timeline because I'm very, very excited about this timeline. So we found
Mhm,
out from Mr. Mahoney, a detective sergeant, that at 2:05, Paul backs up from the garage. So 2:05. So basically 2 o'clock, and he leaves and he arrives at Keith's house at 2:27. So 2:05 to 2:27. So 2:05 to 2:30 ish, and it's about a
mhm,
20-minute drive. So that fits the timeline,
mhm.
right? And then we have 911. Well, we don't know about the 911 call yet, so I'll hold off on that. And
Right.
then the next thing is we know
The
Paul
text
left Keith's house,
messages.
or his vehicle left Keith's house at 3:48 and
Mhm,
arrived back at Paul's house at 4:08. So
mhm.
again, excuse me, again, that's like 20 minutes. Fits the timeline. And then we know the fire alarm at Paul's house was at 4:48. So those were the first little nuggets. And I started to put this timeline together. I'm like, and I think I sent it to you, and I was like, I was so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Mm.
this is like falling into place. Like, how is this hill is like just getting steeper and steeper and steeper.
Plenty of time because, like, I think the longest time was dismantling the generator in the electrical and waiting for, uh, Keith to come outside, which at the text message, you know he's coming outside. He's texting Paul probably on his way out the door,
Mhm.
and that's where everything stops, and that's what, 3:15, 3:13, you said?
3:15, he texts,
Mm,
"I used the manual switch in the basement, so nothing is working." So to me, that means, okay, you've been in power outages. It takes you a minute or two to kind of come out of sleep, especially at 3 o'clock. So I'm
mhm,
even going to give Keith, I'll give him 5 minutes. So say this happens at 3, he's downstairs by
mhm,
3:05, he's messing around. So by 3:15, yeah. So I think this probably happened around 3 o'clock, 3:05.
mhm.
And that makes sense because Paul arrived at Keith's house at 2:27, so 2:30. So basically 2:30 to 3:15, Paul
He's got
has time
to
to park, walk through that wooded area, like you said,
Mhm.
come from
And
behind.
dismantled the generator, caused the blackout,
Yep.
then he's gonna wake up, comes out. I think the longest time for the alleged crime was taken with Keith,
Mhm.
I think those bruises speak a lot on Paul Caneiro's battle. I also
Mhm.
think 4 gunshot wounds, to the body, uh,
Mhm.
actually speak volumes to me. To me, that means they did struggle. Now he's aggravated. It's
Mhm.
not a one bullet kind of thing. It's
Mhm.
like, gosh darn it, like, and it's a little more emphasis on everything. And
Mhm.
then he goes into the house and that's all done pretty quickly but brutally. And by
Yeah.
I
That's
I I do believe that Sophia would have been the last one because that would have been the exacerbation of the whole event. At this point, he is hyped
Mhm.
up, aggravated. He can't believe he has to do this. He's doing this, and he gets taken out on,
Right.
unfortunately, on the body of little 8-year-old Sophia.
Yeah.
That was totally personal and aggressive, and she was,
Mhm.
if she fought back, I think she was running up the stair. I think she was going back up the stairs. I
Mhm.
think she was fighting back in some way, kicking him or whatever, and he was just slashing at her.
Mhm.
I think it was total frustration, but all of that happened very quickly. I mean,
Mhm.
after all, Jennifer was right after Keith. She was coming up from the basement stairs, so she
Mhm.
was helping Keith with the electrical thing, and
Mhm.
he shot her and stabbed her. And then,
Mhm.
of course, the children are downstairs because if the house, it's a big house. The power
Mhm.
is out, and you don't know why. You want everybody where you can see them.
Sure.
So she probably put some water or snack on the counter, on the breakfast bar, and sat Jesse and Sophia there,
Mhm.
uh, you know, because Jesse was in the kitchen area
Yeah.
towards going up the stairs, which is not that far from the stairs to go upstairs.
Right.
Um, and just horrible. But he had plenty of time because that was all done in a frenzy, and I think that goes to mindset. Um, because I mean, it is family. And I
Mhm.
do think that as horrible as all of this is, in order for Paul Caneiro to do it, he would have had to do it quick, and just get it over with and done and just leave and not
Yeah.
think about it. Like, and
You brought up Paul's injuries, and then also let's not forget about that tree that was
uh-huh.
that was tipped over at where Keith's body was. So all of Paul's injuries were his left hand,
Hmm.
underneath his armpit, his left armpit. Had some bruising here on his left arm. Had bruising on his left side, and something maybe a shin. I'm not sure which side because they didn't identify it. But then his right foot,
Hmm.
right outside foot. So to me, all the bruising, all the issues are on his left side. So how so whatever struggle happened, it seems and which leg is he does he have the limp? I think it's his left. Do you recall?
I don't recall,
Yeah.
but I think that all of the bruising being on one side clearly, to me, represents that Keith came out of the house, saw a shadow figure. I don't think he knows it's Paul, and he tackles it.
Hmm.
Period.
So
Like
he
he
falls on his left. You think he falls on his
And
left
I
side?
think he falls on it, or Keith
Yeah.
has got his arms around him under his arm, which
Hmm.
would account for the one bruise, especially if he's squeezing.
Yeah.
The hand thing, I still think that happened when he was dismantling with tools the generator or
Yeah.
the electric box. I think he did that one to himself.
Yeah. I think so
The way
too.
that injury is, it doesn't look like a fight injury to me. I can't even imagine how you would get that in a fight,
Hmm.
especially one that ends so quickly.
Right.
Okay. I do
So
think the tree got knocked over. It's dark. There's
yeah.
no lights. One of them walked into it, fell into it, tripped over it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where Paul got tackled into. Maybe Paul got tackled into that tree. Maybe,
Yep.
that could have caused
Yep.
it,
Could.
because
Yeah.
that lawn was immaculate. They had
Mhm.
landscapers. There's no landscaper that you're going to be paying money is going to let a tree stay like that,
No, and the landscaper in that area is very involved. Dave, the
Yeah.
landscaper, called 2 neighbors
Hmm.
worried about the Caneros already. Like,
Yeah.
he's very involved with that area. Like,
Yeah.
so I doubt he'd leave a tree like that on the Canero.
Unless there was a storm and it happened that night, and then the next day he's there fixing it. But yeah,
I don't think
there's
there was a storm that night at all. Like, it
yeah.
was dry.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, that's what I'm just saying. If that would be the only other explanation is that something happened overnight and then the next day the landscaper is going to be there and fix that. Because again, you're not going to just let, if you're a landscaper, you're going to take care of your property that you're getting paid to take care of. And that's one of the things you take care of. Um,
Mhm.
all right. So that's day 5. I just want to, let's get to some questions that pertain to day 5. Let's just see if, Molly, did Paul respond to Keith's message about the generator electricity out?
No,
He did
no,
not.
no.
3. He sent 3.
He
Keith sent
couldn't
3.
because he strategically left his phone on the charger to try to give himself an alibi that he didn't have his phone with him. He was obviously home sleeping.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. I just want to see if there's anything that has to do with day
Do,
5. Let me see. Go
but
ahead.
let me ask you, do you think that kind of proves the opposite? Because he didn't respond to a text message and the brothers are so close that his brother's contacting him in the middle of the night. If he is, home sleeping with his phone, why didn't he respond to his brother?
You could say, that's a very good question. And then I would, if I was the defense, I'd say he didn't hear it. He didn't hear the text messages. His alerts were off.
And if I was the prosecution, I would pull up that year's worth of messages where he did talk to him all days of the hour and night about every little thing in his life.
Yeah.
That's the relationship they had.
Yeah. Um, do you want to add, there's some, Melissa is new and she's just asking about your
Oh,
origin. Do you care to answer
oh,
that or?
oh no, that's fine. I'm not Dutch. I'm from New Jersey.
Okay.
I had tutors from Australia in England, so I have a really funny accent. I will admit it. And my accent is they call me Jersey peon, and I get a lot of comments about that. I am not a lawyer. I saw one of those comments in there, but I do have an absolute fascination with the law. I always have. I read legal briefs every single day. I love unique trials, especially trials that have advanced technology changing precedent in what evidence can be put forward or in to do with consent or how laws get changed. So you'll see me following some of the more obscure cases, but it's usually got something to do with advanced technology, long hearings that are pre-trial that actually say what evidence can come through, like this case with the Streamex DNA, first time in New Jersey, allowed 3-week
Mhm.
hearing to try to prove it. Yeah, that's what I just like it. It's a hobby. It's a hobby. Yeah.
Fantastic. Play on crime. Who notices a blackout at 3:30 in the morning? I would. I would wake up. Wouldn't you be sleeping in first notice in the morning? Um, Claire, I'll let you answer that. You've been
If
in
it's
you've been in
me,
power
3 o'clock in the
outages.
morning, I'm still watching something. I'm either watching a video or reading. I'm not in bed at 3 a.m. in the morning. And so, like, I don't know. He could have been watching something. He could have been on his phone and lost the Wi-Fi.
Hmm.
Like, and that would have alerted him.
Yeah.
It could have been an alarm. I actually think it was an alarm. A home like that is
Yep.
sophisticated with him being in tech. He's getting alarms all day long on his system, on his cameras, on
Yep.
his equipment. I think it was an alarm that got him. Yeah.
I agree.
Well,
And play on crime. I've been in many, many, many uh, power outages, if you will. Um, I know I'm a heavy sleeper at the beginning, and then I kind of I'm a lighter sleeper towards the closer to sunrise. Um, but Aaron likes to sleep with a fan, so I know immediately as soon as that fan goes off, I'm like blink my eyes, I'm awake. Um, the house makes noises, makes sounds. You have
mhm,
appliances plugged in. We have a light on in our hallway. We have and that would go off. So I would know that immediately. So yeah, I would notice that. I would notice that pretty. Like I said, within 5 minutes, I would definitely notice that.
mhm. His house was pretty wired up. He's a
So
tech guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And here's a question about the injury. Yeah. So Sharon, do you think Paul got his hand injury from his own house or Keith? So we kind of touched upon that. So you think it was the generator? He was trying to rip off the
I think the setting of the stage in Colts Neck was more involved in his own home fire, which was just gasoline in a window well
mhm,
and a bunch of stuff outside the garage. A
mhm.
little easier to do, and he was very sloppy about it. I mean, he's leaving wet footprints. He's leaving the gas can. He's like doing all of this,
Yeah.
but I think he was just depended that everything would burn up in the fire and he wouldn't have to worry about it, or he's just rushed. Um, I really think it was trying to dismantle the generator and the electric box. I think the electric box was taken off of
Mhm.
the electric box was opened and the meter was taken off the house.
It was the meter,
That's a
right?
job.
Yep.
That's an actual job. The
Yeah.
generator, he could have just like because he knew about the generator, he knew how to disrupt it by the switch and where to go. That
Mhm.
was less cumbersome. But actually getting that meter off the house needed a tool, and I think he injured himself with the tool. It takes just a slip with pressure to get that kind of a puncture wound with a tool,
Mhm. Yeah.
like you're trying to do something.
Agreed. So Sharon asks, at, at one point today, they said Paul called Corey after speaking to Keith in the I'm going to go within the wee hours of the morning. And where did Corey come from to meet Paul? We kind of talked about that, but we can go over that again.
He was in New Jersey, according to testimony the wife gave, but I heard about that in an article that hasn't come out in court yet, so we have to see.
Mhm.
Well, apparently, according to what the wife said to the on scene, first responders in Colts Neck,
Mhm.
that they were there in the area and that Corey would be taking the children to Pennsylvania. But Corey had information to give them because he had heard from Keith and there was some problems between Keith and Paul, and he had email to give to them. And I think she actually was the first one to forward the email so that they could formulate their questions before they went to Pennsylvania to speak with Corey himself.
Mhm. There's some really great questions here. This is a really great question from Sally. If Susan has been in court, can she testify?
Yes, family is allowed. I mean, there's usually a provision in most courts. It's
Mhm.
hammered out beforehand that the victim's family is allowed to be there. And so, yeah, I think
Mhm.
that she is on the state's list, and I think it would have been hammered out ahead of time.
Okay. And
But I
isn't there something about spouses can't testify against each other? Like we watch The Sopranos, and they're always like, "Oh, they can't, spouse can't testify." Is that?
Incriminating, yes, as
Mm,
far as like she can't say what he did or what he didn't. But as
mm,
far as like asking questions like, did you actually work at Echo Star?
uh,
Did you receive a paycheck from EchoStar?
mhm.
In were you sleeping in separate bedrooms? Yes. Did you actually witness him in bed sleeping? I think they are allowed to ask those questions. But is
Okay.
she allowed to give character or definite evidence? I mean, they don't have to. Can they? Yes. Many
Mhm,
a wife and many a husband has testified and had their spouses locked up. It
mhm.
is that you don't have to. They can't compel you. I believe the
Okay.
rule is you cannot compel a spouse to testify against a spouse. Does that
Right.
make sense?
It
Yeah.
does. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, if you want to protect your spouse, hey, I'm not going to testify. I'm going to, plead that. But
You
if you
you
want to
claim
testify,
spousal privilege and that's it. You don't have to.
right.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Terry is asking, do you know if Paul and Susan are divorced or still together? I don't know the answer to that question.
I would can I make an assumption? I mean, I know we don't like to speculate, but with 1.5 million on the table, do you think she divorced them yet? I mean,
Yeah, good point.
he
But
got arrested the day after.
yeah,
Like,
and she knows that he had Giselle and they were going to Colombia and all over the
mhm.
place. So she knew that already. And they talked about separation and divorce. So
Yes, and if I was wronged in that way, I would be looking for my payday for sure.
good point. Terry also asked, "Do you think defense will call Paul's wife and then the daughters?" We kind of know about the wife, but what about the daughters? You think Caitlin and Marissa would testify?
I think that it's a big risk, and I think the defense knows that. I think it's going to be another Andy Murray situation where he almost opened the door, got
Hmm.
reminded publicly by the judge and the glee of the prosecution that this would be something they'd look forward to, and then back down. And I
Hmm.
think the same thing will happen with Massillon. I think the defense has a habit of just putting out there what they want the jury to know on, hoping that those final instructions don't hit home too hard about know all you want on things that prosecution or defense say, but that's not evidence. Evidence is evidence, and that's all you get to go by. Not what Miss Masterlund says, not what Mr. Murray says, not what Mr. Decker says, not what Miss Wallace says, but the actual evidence in the witnesses are the only thing you're allowed to take into consideration.
Yeah.
But as long as they stick to that, it'll be fine. But we have seen juries not pay attention to that rule at all. We have seen juries totally disregard the physical evidence and just go with some pie in the sky theory that somebody threw out there with absolutely no evidence.
Yeah.
It's disheartening. I don't believe it's justice, but it's how our system works. It's up to them.
Yeah, Sherry, I agree. Wouldn't she incriminate herself by the financial aspect? I would
She's
say so.
already sunk with that. They proved it in court. I would suspect she's in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, with would be the IRS, or who would
Well,
probably.
by her getting paid for Paul's work, that was fraud against Social Security. He
Okay.
was getting long-term disability through Social Security, and you're only allowed to make like $600-700 before they reduce it. And it proved that he could work and earn, Social Security disability is what you get when you can't earn a living because of your disability. Obviously, at $350,000 a year, Paul Caneiro was able to work and support himself.
Yeah.
Despite his disability. Now, we're not talking about his private disability claims. That's all different stuff. That's a different insurance. We're talking about the federal and state programs that are run through disability, which that's where the fraud comes in.
So it'd be Social Security and I would think the IRS would want to be knocking on the door as well.
For what?
For tax, to look at their
I'm sure if
taxes.
he gets paid $350,000, I'm sure the taxes were coming out of it, but the way that things were actually the way money was being moved around and money taken out of tax-free things and then him using it personally, I'm sure they do want to audit where all that money's coming from, because obviously he wasn't reporting the money that he stole or misappropriated, I should say, allegedly misappropriated from the trust, never claimed it as income, but spent it as expense. So yes, I think there is a taxable liability there. We'll see if the IRS comes after him for it.
Well, we'd have to. We that hasn't been brought into evidence yet of that they only declared $50,000. We don't know what
They didn't bother doing any of that because the charge is actually misappropriation from the trust, and they definitely proved that. They nailed him on that. Yeah.
I've never heard of Dream Horse is saying considered a ghost employee. I've never heard of that term. Do you know what that is?
A ghost employee, and there's somebody who gets paid that doesn't actually work there. And sometimes in small family-run businesses, yes, I've heard the term, where you put your family on the payroll so that they can get health insurance and this and that, but they actually have no responsibilities.
Okay. I'm thinking Catherine Magbanowa from the Adelsons, right? She never worked at the Adelson Institute, and yet she got paid.
But they've actually proved that Paul Caneiro's doing physical work every day at the office. He's running that company and he's doing all of the books and he's responsible for all this stuff. And his wife is getting the payroll for it. Of course, Keith Caneiro is going to be a little difficult. Keith Caneiro's not there to prove why she's getting paid. Like he can't say, oh, that's Paul's salary, because that would have locked it up.
Right.
He's no longer here to say that. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Right. All right. So day 5, I thought ended great with Mahoney, with the camera surveillance. Then day 6, we had Lazaro Cardenas, who was the trust and estate attorney. Then we had Dennis Kapora. He was the 911 caller. He was the optician. Brian Weisbrot, and then Lieutenant Nick Catalone. So out of those 4, we had the trust and estate attorney. We had the 911 caller, thought somebody got whacked. We have Sergeant Weisbrot. He responded to Paul's house. I got a star next to his name. And then Nick Catalone.
He's the lead investigator again. He's in charge of I believe he was in charge of Ocean. Weisbrot, and
Mhm.
he was the investigator that helped tie everything together there.
Mhm.
He was in charge. And then you got Catalona, who was actually the, I guess you would call it the CSI, who collected all the data, although he's not doing the analysis. He's the evidence collector,
Mhm.
the crime scene investigator.
Yep.
Mm.
Um,
And
so I'm
but
just go
back
ahead.
to the attorney,
Yeah.
I made a couple of notes there. Prosecution did a really good job of helping the jury understand about trusts, about
Yes.
the definitions and everything. Um, and I don't think that this actual expert allowed the defense to actually take much away from that whatsoever. I
Mhm.
actually thought it was kind of ludicrous of Andy Murray to put out that, well, basically what he was saying, that since the children were beneficiaries and they could give permission to Paul Caneiro to borrow money or to do these things, that it's not actually a violation of the trust if they have a permission of a beneficiary. Now, everybody knows that Jennifer's not going to give permission to Paul to do anything without Keith knowing about it, right? And
Mhm.
obviously, Keith doesn't know about it because he's upset by his premiums not getting paid, and he doesn't know Paul's taking money out of the
Right.
account for his personal use, but he's getting an inkling that he might. So
Right.
Andy puts out there, well, what about the kids? They're a beneficiary. And since they're not old enough to make their own decisions, their guardian could give permission. Ergo, Keith, meaning Keith. And because Keith
Mhm.
has a relationship with Paul and they're brothers, that he ipso facto gave permission to Paul to steal from him blind.
That's
Make
such a
that make
stretch.
sense.
That's nonsense. Yeah.
Was that not the defense's argument for this? Like that, and it took Andy Murray what 45 minutes to say it. Like I
To
was
get
like,
there.
get
Yeah.
out of here with it.
You're 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 a better trial watcher than I have to admit sometimes I just kind of zone out when when the defense
Well,
is at their
yeah,
cross.
he has that tone, like,
I try to
but
pay
when he,
attention. Yeah.
I'm paying attention to the defense because for the life of me, I can't figure out where the heck they're coming from.
Yeah.
I really can't. I'm like, tell all the stories you want. If you don't walk up with some kind of evidence to prove it, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Like, first of all, do you not think the jury's offended by you just putting the children out there? Like Keith gave permission for Paul to rob him blind, which is not in the best interest of his children. I don't think a reasonable person would do that. Like,
No.
I
And
don't think
then well, and then to that point, then later in the week, which was today, we heard those the text messages, or they were read into Keith. He wanted out of the companies. He just wanted to be to work in the marketplace so that he could save money for his kids' education. So it was all about the kids in the sense of he wanted to supply his kids with an education. That to me is all that he wanted. So then to go back to what you're saying about Mr. Murray suggesting that Keith was having Paul take out money on behalf of, or the kids were telling Keith, wait, what? I don't even know.
well,
It's so convoluted.
he was kind of making it like Keith would have thought it was okay, that Keith didn't do anything about it because he knew something happened in April and he didn't do anything about it then. They
Hmm.
worked it out, and Paul said, "Yeah, my head's been up my whatever, and
Right,
I'm all straightened out now. I paid the wrong person, blah blah blah." And
right.
Keith didn't do anything about it then. That was kind of giving, he kind of wouldn't have made a big deal about it. Um he kind of would have just let it go. And
Hmm.
I think that was like too far, too far.
Yeah, that was too far of a stretch, Mr. Murray. Well, we're big tennis fans here, so we're always talking about Andy Murray, the tennis star, tennis player for England, and
Mhm.
Mr. Murray was reaching for that overhead, and he just whiffed at it. So
And at what point does the jury start to think, if you have to reach that far and tell these fantastical stories with nothing to back it up, are you helping the case or you're hurting the case?
yeah, yeah, and then it kind of looks like you're just throwing spaghetti against the wall. You're trying to muddy the waters, and we see that often. And
Mhm.
in a long trial, I think you're going to get jury fatigue. I think the jury's going to be like, "Oh, come on," and
Like
and I
like
wonder.
Miss Massaloon today with but it's possible, right? I mean, it might be rare to find that they Googled where to bury the body, but
Mhm.
it is possible, right? I mean, it does happen occasionally, and then the witness gets to say, "It's never happened with me yet, but
Mhm.
I've heard it happen, but no." Like, so I mean, what kind of a defense is that? Well, it's in the realm of possibility that if we were on an alternate planet in a different time zone with some
Mhm.
universe interference going on, then maybe perhaps Paul Caneiro is innocent. Like
Mhm.
that's what it sounds like to me when they do that stuff. It's like
Agreed.
I mean,
Agreed.
I don't think anybody wants me on a jury. Like not with the way I'm thinking about this at all. Like I'm like, because
Right.
I'd be the one just looking at them going, "Really?" Like,
Yeah.
I might even say it
With
out
the
loud, like,
with the
"Really?
glasses. Really?
Oh, no, are you serious? Like, you serious? You think we're gonna fall for that?" Like, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, okay, it's possible, sure. Is it probable? No.
no,
You know?
right.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think I posted that in chat. Brett and I were kind of going back and forth with that of like, this is really, this is your defense is like, well, it is possible. Or wait, since my client didn't Google search, how long does it take to, but
Mhm,
whatever, or didn't
yeah.
Google, arson, really that means that they didn't commit it? I mean, come on, come on.
I mean, sometimes they're so diligent. I mean, nobody could deny their passion to defend him. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. But
Yeah.
they're so diligent in getting these crazy other alternate theories out there, and
Mhm.
yet they inadvertently support the prosecution's argument every chance they get. Like,
They really do.
actually having this witness
Hmm.
go through those texts to reaffirm that Paul Caneiro knows about all of the mechanics of the inside of the Caneiro home.
Hmm.
I was like, "Do you realize what you just did?"
Hmm.
Like, if I was on the jury, I would be like, "Oh, really? Okay, so, well, why is Keith contacting him? He's his big brother, and he knows all the mechanics. He probably helped me set up the generator. Like, he knows what's going on. Wow,
Hmm.
wouldn't it be easy for him to dismantle everything? Like, he got it going. Yup. Whoa.
See, I didn't
Because
even think of that. I didn't even think of that, but now that you're bringing that up, of course, that's like brilliant. That's like
Right,
absolutely, yeah.
and you're sitting there thinking, like, how did Paul Caneiro have the knowledge to do all this? Is he some kind of electrical genius? Is he like,
Mhm.
is he Mr. Handyman? Yeah, look at his garage. He builds
Mhm.
things, he does things, he is the one fixing things, he does stuff
Right.
like that at his brother's house. And you just confirmed it. Thank you, Miss Meslo. Like,
Mhm.
I could see Christopher Decker sitting back there just crossing it off the list. I don't have to do that one. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
There you go.
Yeah,
I mean,
agreed.
it
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Brat. But at least my client hey, at least my client didn't Google, "How else do you cut up a body?"
yes, well, the body wasn't cut up, so there you go, and he didn't bother to get rid of the bodies, he just left them where they lay, let the fire take care of that, and
Yeah.
what bothers me about that is he put the house on fire and everything, but he left Keith in the front yard. He wasn't worried about covering up Keith's body or if Keith's body got found,
Right.
and I think that's why he shot him more than once. He wanted made it look like the family was targeted. He was using that, definitely.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I thought about that. 4 shots in the back, and was it 4 I think in the back torso, and then 1, at least 1 in the head. There was 6
Mhm.
shots, but 5 hit Keith, so we'll have to
Keith.
wait for the medical examiner, but I think it was 4 in his torso and then 1 in the head. Is
Okay,
that
yep, I do believe you're correct,
right?
and for
Yeah.
everybody who watches mob movies and is obsessed with crime and gang movies like me, it's not the modus operandi, like,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
get them down and then you finish them off with one to the head.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't shoot 4 in the torso. That doesn't make sense.
Well, that's how you get them down, but then, like, you make your point at the end, like,
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's
yeah,
true. That's true.
mm.
All right, let's see who else. So day 6, yeah, we have Weisbrot, Cataloni, or I always want to say Catalonia. I want to throw that Italian thing in there.
So
Catalone.
many Italian names, right,
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. Dennis, the 911 caller, Capora.
mhm.
Um, he was
He was
fun. He was a
entertaining.
character. What did you think about him?
I hmm, I think that I was a bit frustrated. I think he was a great witness. I
Hmm.
think him actually setting the scene, you see, because everybody on the jury doesn't like actually come from Colts Neck, but he set the scene of how quiet. And I think I told you about the landscape there. There are very huge homes and large fields in between wooded areas all over in
Yeah.
these complexes. Makes it very, very quiet, but very, very echoey also. Like you have a party in your backyard and everybody hears it everywhere. Okay. Um, and that was struck because he was saying how quiet it is in the middle of the night. How could 2 miles away I hear the gunshots easily? He says, quote unquote, it's Colts Neck, man. Like that's how it is out here. Like it's so dead quiet. Like I can hear I can hear them taking their garbage out like half a mile away. It gets like that. Certain things echo, you know. Also, why didn't more people report it? Well, they hunt deer all the time. Gunshots, believe it or not, in that well-to-do area is not unusual, but for a different reason. For hunting, it happens a lot, and they
Right.
hear it. But also his mannerisms and all, like, you know, he called, he did the right thing. He says he took that screenshot of when he called. And I'm like, well, that would be when he heard it. But then during his testimony, and I understand now why they didn't subpoena his phone records. First of all, that was a useless thing to put out there is for Miss Massalone, because what would the phone records prove? That he called 911. Isn't that already proved with the CAD call and the other end of the conversation, and it's documented and in evidence? Didn't he already show them his phone that was the time he called? Why would they subpoena his phone records? How is that going to tell them when he heard the shot? And she kept saying,
Yeah.
if they had subpoenaed your records, wouldn't we know when you heard the shot? And I'm like, that makes absolutely no sense. His phone is not connected to his eardrum, Miss Massalone. Like it did not send a telepathic message to his phone. I just heard a shot. That didn't happen. There's no recording of that. There's like, what are you inferring here? And really, as a juror, like if I'm sitting there, I'm offended, Miss Massalone. How stupid do you think we are? Really? Like
Yeah.
what kind of television do you watch? Seriously?
Well, he said it was 320 something. So it could have been 320, it could have been 329. So
Right.
even if that's the case, at this point we only know that Paul arrived or the SUV arrived at 227, and then it leaves at 348, and then he heard these shots fired between 320 and 329. It still fits the timeline. It doesn't matter if it's 320, 321, 22, 23, whatever it is.
It doesn't.
It,
And
it fits this
honestly,
timeline.
you know, answer me this, Chat and Chris.
Yeah.
If they did subpoena waste the time to subpoena this particular 911 caller's phone records for some useless reason and waste our taxpayers' money, time, and effort on an investigation, are they doing justice for the victims? Are they spending our tax dollars wisely? Are they actually doing a good job? I think that's silly. Like they have to cut expenses somewhere in the police department, and the fact that they didn't subpoena this 911 caller's phone records, which by the way would be an extreme violation of privacy. There would have been 3 hearings on the redactions that would have had to occur because of all the other people involved that are in his phone that had nothing to do with a 911 call that is already documented fully and recorded on the other side with no doubt when it happened. That's the key.
Yeah.
No doubt when that phone call happened. None.
Yeah. And it doesn't
Like,
matter if it was 326 or 333. I mean, it's within 5 minutes, 6 minutes. It's not like it's crucial to the timeline, because there is a pretty big gap between when Paul arrived and when Paul left. So to me, you're right. That's
yeah. So like
it-
this is the
that's
point
that.
I'm yelling. Like you say, I'm like paying so much attention. I'm like yelling at the screen saying, thank you, law enforcement, for not wasting my dollars. And Miss Mastalone, this is a bridge too far. This is too far a reach. You're looking a little silly here, and the jury's gonna notice. Would you stop it? Like there comes a point when you start to look like you'll say anything, so the jury stops listening. Like stop it. Like that's
Yeah.
like stop it. Like you want to do your best for him, just stop. Like, you know, rein it in.
I wonder if they have both sides have people that are watching the jury. I know that happens in other trials where you have jury watchers and you kind of see, what's working with the jury, what's not working with the jury. I wonder if they have people saying, "Hey, this line of
Right.
questioning, this tactic is working. You may want to, revise it here or there." Do you think that's happening here?
You would find that on the defense side, those that are paying for private attorneys will hire a jury watcher to
Yeah.
actually see how things are playing off, to see if they're losing the jury for some angles. We
Right.
saw
Right.
that in several public trials that we all are familiar with over the last year in
Hmm.
2025. On the prosecution side, I don't think they have the money for that, but I think that they are doing it themselves. I've
Hmm.
seen Nicole Wallace watching carefully. I
Hmm.
see her making notes. I see her talking to Christopher Decker.
Hmm.
I think he's aware. I also think they're very aware because if you notice what they don't object to a lot
Hmm.
is the stuff that's making the defense look a little ridiculous. We're
Hmm.
going, we're sitting over here because we watch trials all the time, right? And when I say we, I mean you, me, true crime community as a whole. And we're yelling at the screen going, irrelevant, out of scope, objection. Like,
Hmm.
why are you objecting? And I
Hmm.
found myself saying this to the screen quite often. And I'm glad I'm muted because like you don't want to hear what I'm saying down there. you know because like I'm like you should be objecting like this like she's out of line, she's out of line, like this doesn't relevancy, out of scope,
Hmm.
irrelevant, cross, that isn't even what I talked to the witness about, where is she going, like,
Yep.
but he doesn't. I think he's purposely letting her do it because I think he's seeing how it's playing to the jury. I
Hmm.
think Christopher Decker and Nicole Wallace are seeing how the jury is reacting to it, and that's why they're letting it go,
Hmm.
because otherwise I can't imagine why they would let her carry on like that, or
Hmm.
let Andy Murray is even worse, but more subtle. You know, Monica Mastalone is more animated and
Hmm.
more of a character, like that
Hmm.
we're all. Andy's like subtle in the back, but
Hmm.
is doing the same thing.
Hmm.
He's just going around in circles, in
Hmm.
telling a story. He's saying what he wants the jury to know before he even asks the question.
Yep. I agree, and they both come in with their cross and they basically say the same thing that the direct just did. They'll
Mhm.
just go over the exact same thing. I have noticed though this week they have cut their cross down a bit. Have you noticed that, or do you agree with that or disagree with that?
I do agree with it. I think I've noticed Miss Mestalone is not smiling. She looks very stressed right now.
Hmm.
She looks very stressed. I think they watched back the week before
Hmm.
and they got their feedback that they're not playing very well with the jury in thing, and that the judge having to reprimand them,
Hmm.
or actually when they go too far and the judge is objecting
Hmm.
instead of the prosecution. I think they got a clue they're getting set up here, like
Right.
by the prosecution, in that yeah, they were giving them enough rope. And so I think
Hmm.
yes, they're toning it down
Yeah.
because it's one thing to say that something is there. You can only go at law enforcement in the investigation so much. You can only do that so much,
Right.
you know.
Right. Yeah. That was their main. I think their main defenses was uh, law enforcement investigation was suspicious or sus. I mean, they didn't do a thorough job. The chain of custody, all of that, and then
Well, they're
what
having a
else?
hard time with chain of custody, don't you think? I mean, I thought that that testimony, although tedious, was pretty darn thorough.
I'm
They
not seeing anything. I mean, this is a thorough investigation. I'm not seeing anything where I'm like, "Ooh, you could have done that
that
better."
yeah, the
Yeah.
lieutenant, Kessler, he's pretty darn good at his job, if you ask
Hmm.
me. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
the law enforcement that has so far testified, the ones that were, in charge of chain of custody and taking care of
Mhm.
things, yeah, they've been spot on. I haven't seen any chink in that
Even
armor.
with the mishap of all of those, it's not even a mishap. It is just like an unfortunate situation where some of the evidence is frozen because of the weather and the putting out of the fire, and you've got a mass of the most important evidence out there, bloody jeans,
Hmm.
bloody gloves,
Hmm.
all of that stuff that was all smushed. Remember, I told you it was in the plastic and he was hoping it was all going to become one
Hmm.
big unusable thing. Well,
Right.
it kind of sort of did, But even then, he put it all in a bag, and she was trying to go with him. Oh, you took it outside? You put it on the driveway? He goes, yes, in the evidence bag, secured in the evidence bag the whole time on the
Mm-hmm.
driveway,
Yeah.
like sealed, like nothing was going to happen to it. Sun couldn't get to it. It was just a change of temperature. I was trying to get it so it could be separated by the lab. Like
Mm-hmm.
that man was used to testifying, and he was used to having everything he does under a microscope. He
Mm-hmm.
was prepared.
Yep.
Yeah.
Scrutinized, and yep, he
Hmm.
is. Yeah, he was by
Hmm.
the book.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I had no issues. I couldn't see anything. Nothing jumped out at me of like I was saying. Certainly, yeah. No, no solo cups, no leaf blowers, no Stop and Shop
Yeah,
bags.
I
No,
know. Yes,
just
this was actually like a police like I and we can make fun of the solo cups all we want, but like they were dealing with a blizzard and not prepared, and they didn't have anything. Thank goodness they did get what they got in the solo cups. I mean, I would
mm,
want them to at least try, which they did. But
mm,
again, hindsight is perfect vision, and that's what the defense gets to look at everything with the hindsight of it all. They
true.
weren't there as first responders. They have, so this is just the way it goes. Defense 101, attack the investigation because there's always going to be something that goes wrong. I
Yep.
mean, even in the probable cause affidavit, I was going to ask you if you caught the typo, if you caught the typo of Detective Zerillo when he was trying to refer to Paul's house, but he said Keith.
Oh, in the affidavit you sent me?
Uh-huh.
Oh
Yeah.
no, no, I haven't read it yet. I haven't had a
Yeah.
chance to read it
Yeah.
yet.
So like he did, like he's talking about one premise and he uses the wrong brother's name.
Oh,
And yeah, and I'm just like, I know that's not what you mean because that's not what happened there. Like,
yeah. I
but
think Catalone said he misspoke quick, and he said, "Oh, I know I made a mistake." I mean, even their mistakes are so minuscule, or I don't remember
right.
exactly what it was, but yeah, he misspoke, or he's like, "Oh, no, I misspoke." It was so minuscule, it wasn't even not even it
Mhm.
wasn't even anything.
Let
Um,
me ask you this because this keeps running through my mind. The
sure.
main defense thing is that they focused on Paul Caneiro right away. They didn't look for anybody else. It's just a lazy investigation. And so after that, what they did was confirmation bias. They just gathered all the evidence to prove against Paul and didn't
Mhm,
look for evidence anywhere else. Okay.
mhm.
Do you think the prosecution is doing a good case with the witnesses of laying out why they went for Paul Caneiro first? And do you think they had enough to stay there right away?
I do, because they interviewed Corey, and he had an alibi straight away. They looked at the financials of who's who. They looked at Keith, and then they looked at who would want to do this to him. And I think they found, well, brother is business partners. And then once they started to look at the fraud, or I'm sorry, well, once they started to look
Mhm.
at the financials, maybe the text messages, they're like, wow, why is Keith so upset at Paul? What's going on with these financials? And then they dug further and further. Um, yeah, I don't right now. All points are leading to Paul, and then they had the video. I think once they uncovered the
Mhm.
video of the car leaving, the SUV leaving, and then coming back, I think that was like, I'm sure whoever discovered
Right.
that is like, we got you. Um,
Yeah. And
you, you
that's
know,
all proving it true. Like I just mean in that first day,
first first
there are
24
three
hours.
yeah, there are three things that happened that that
Well,
that secured it.
Corey had an alibi for sure, so it wasn't Corey. So get rid of him straight away.
But Corey also gave them damning information, the email within the first 24 hours.
Oh, what was the email? What did he say? What
The
was that?
email was I'm going to separate all my ties with Paul business-wise. I want
Oh,
to get out of all of this. It was his clear plan and what was going on with Paul, and he CC'd it to the accountant too, and to Paul and to Corey on what he was planning to do, and it was the day before or that night,
so
earlier that
Cor-
night.
so Corey gave that to law enforcement, that when he was interviewed, that either that day or
Within
that night.
24 hours, the wife mentioned it at the scene.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. And
Right.
what about his friend, Ben Palazzolo? Right. What about him? Who comes right out and say the brothers are fighting. There's big
Mhm.
financial things going on immediately.
Yeah. When
Okay.
did they
It-
interview Ben? When did they interview him? Do you remember? When
that day he was on scene. Remember, he went to the scene. He was there.
Ben was there? Okay. All right.
His wife told him something was going on at the house. There was a text message going on. He was texting Paul. Paul says, I can't come because I have a fire of my own over here. He was trying to get a hold of people. He went to the scene and he was upset. And he was the one who had dinner with Keith that week, talking about how he needs to take care of himself and his family, and enough of this supporting everybody else and getting all tied into what everybody else is doing. It's time to take care of his own.
Yeah. No, I definitely remember that. And now, yeah, he left work and he was headed to Keith. Okay. Yep. I got it now.
Okay.
And yep.
So
Yep.
that interview right there on the site,
Mm-hmm.
okay, Paul lying in Ocean Township and get caught lying immediately in Ocean Township, and
Mm-hmm.
evidence in Ocean Township immediately that fire was set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Is
there
that
was
a
really
convincing?
no reason.
I
There,
wouldn't look any further. Like
yeah.
I mean, I would do cursory interviews that are required of everybody, and they did.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to put a target on anybody else when there's a huge bullseye already on a guy who his own information that he's giving us is making him a suspect.
Mm-hmm.
Also, look at his demeanor at the police station. He is very stoic, like he is now, and everyone else is hysterical when they find out that Keith dies. His wife and his children, his adult children, are in tears,
Mm-hmm.
and he's not. And the detective notices this.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Do you,
I,
how do you know that? I don't remember that in
I think
testimony.
I heard that when the detective Brian, hold on,
Sure.
first week, the one she kept going after so hard, um,
There's Brady. Is it him?
Brady, yes,
Christopher
Brady,
Brady, Lieutenant Brady. Yeah.
yes, the one that had them at the police station.
Yeah. 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 So he
Hmm.
was the one that said that. Okay, I don't recall that. I
I
mean,
don't think he
yeah.
said like I didn't like his reaction or anything like that. I think that he mentioned how they were upset, but he only mentioned the wife and
Mm-hmm.
the daughters being upset. He didn't say
Mm-hmm.
anything about Paul Caneiro being upset, because I made a note of that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I that there was further stuff that comes in probably from other pretrial hearings that we heard when they were going on the scope of everything. But I just think his demeanor mattered a lot, and especially the way he interacted with the police
Mm-hmm.
on site at his house. I understand his house is on fire and etc. like that, but I mean, you're giving false information. It's not good. It's not
Mm-hmm.
good to get caught in lies and stuff like that right away.
Yeah. Yeah. And Brad, Brad brings up a good point. Nothing that Paul. Oh, wait here. Let me pull this up. Yeah. Nothing Paul told them checked out, so they had to dig. And then, of course, the
Mhm.
more they dug, it got worse.
It just kept getting worse.
It just
And
kept
so
getting
the
worse.
more they find stuff going in that direction, like are they gonna spend the money on a whole nother team to go in another direction that would
Mm-hmm.
be futile? I mean, as a taxpayer, don't you want law enforcement? Yes, you want them to do the best investigation they can, but don't you
Mm-hmm.
want them spending your money prudently and judiciously, like
Of
with
course. Yeah,
properly?
of course.
Defense
Yeah.
101 is always to attack the investigation, but I don't really think they went far here in trying to get it on Corey like he had the same vested interest. Well, that's been proven that he did have the same 1.5 dangled in front of him, but he
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the access or the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
the
he
only motive that I see so far that Corey would have had a hand in it, is the 1.5, right?
right.
That's really the only motive that I see. And
And here you are, Paul has even more motive,
right.
because he's got the 1.5 dangling there,
Mhm.
plus trying to hide all these misdeeds that he's been doing,
Mhm.
losing face. One of the things I did an interview on family annihilation with one of my friends who works in mental health. He's got a master's in forensic psychology. In One of the things for family annihilation is when you feel like there's no other choice. If the relationship is as strong as the defense keeps putting out there between Keith and Paul,
Mhm.
how devastating is it for Paul to actually come to the realization that his brother has lost total faith in him and sees him as doing all of this wrong, disappointing him, letting him down, and the relationship is never going to be the same.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes it's better just not to have to face that, and then it makes actually what he was about to do better off for him. Like
Yeah.
as an actual solution. Not only does he not have to deal with this emotionally anymore, and he doesn't get found out about all of this, he can just go on his happy way. I mean, he's got enough to deal with. He's got a mistress, wife looking for divorce, and he's going to have to divide up all the assets, and he's going to have money troubles no matter what,
Hmm.
and he really doesn't need to deal with all the rest of it too. So,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
I really think he's got a much stronger motive than Corey. Corey's just going to get a little bit of money.
Right. No, I agree. I agree. Yes, the motivation for 1.5 million is strong, but then that was all Corey had. Whereas, like you said, Paul had the 1.5, plus he had hiding the fraud, plus he had um, uh, hiding the fraud from the trust. Then he has the stealing from the company. Yeah, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So
Mhm.
Corey, to me, yeah, he would have gained 1.5, and that's a lot of money. But there was that's it. That's where it stops. Whereas Paul just had all this other stuff compiled on top of that. So
Yeah, I was thinking about what you said about Corey going to Paul's house, and it was still quite dark. The sun wasn't up. But here, where we live here on the East Coast, on the shore,
mhm.
when the sun, before it's actually up, there's this dusk, and it's like bright out, but the
Mhm.
sun's not up yet. Like it's just like
Sure.
coming. Maybe he left then.
Sure. Yeah,
Maybe it was
there's
just
always
light out.
twilight. Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah,
always the
yeah.
twilight, before and after the sun
Mhm.
rises and sets. Um,
There's also the thing that we do things that we're not really comfortable doing when there's a family emergency, and if his brother's calling him panic that his house is on fire and everything's going wrong,
that's
like
true.
maybe he would have just got behind the wheel and took the chance, even though it's very difficult. He can't see street signs. He's well enough aware of where his brother lives and how to get there that he felt comfortable enough to drive.
True. True. And I would think, maybe like we were talking, maybe his wife, or he took an Uber, depending on how close he was. If he was within a half hour, he could have taken an
Mhm.
Uber. If he would,
And,
or his wife,
mhm.
hey, Paul's house is on fire. Can you drive me? And yeah, she'd be like,
And he probably does have this eye disorder in you know what and however he manages it fine. I just hope he is the one testifying next week, because I think it would be important for the jury to see this luminous figure that's over here in the clouds that the defense keeps referring to, that might be
mhm,
responsible for all of this mess, and
mhm,
not the innocent Paul Caneiro sitting in front of you. I want them to get a good eye on him and hear
mhm.
from his own mouth that he had nothing to do with this.
Yeah, that will be huge. If Corey does take the stand, that will be one of those moments of like, this is why we watch. That will be one of those moments for sure. Um, All right, so a little bit more from day 6 was the whole nest. This was Nick, Lieutenant Catalone, also bringing this out. The video of Paul disconnecting the DVR at 1:28, and then the email from Nest. Here's the last thing your camera saw, and don't you
Yes,
know,
and
it's
here's
Paul.
the pictures, like, in every room as he turns off the cameras.
I was
Here's a
like,
picture of
oh.
Paul. Yes. He sleepwalks. Did you know that? Like, apparently, he sleepwalks.
Oh,
Yes.
that could be the defense. The defense could come in and say, "Well, here's evidence that Paul is a sleepwalker and he's turned off his cameras before."
Oh gosh, let's make a nickel bet. Would that not be hysterical if, like, next week she actually says that? Like, she missed her moment. She could have said, "Is it possible that he sleepwalks?" I mean, you don't know that Paul Caneiro is a sleepwalker or not, do
We
you?
don't
You're not
know.
a
We
doctor.
don't know.
Yeah.
So adding to my timeline, I get to add to my timeline. So at 1:28 in the morning, Paul turns off the DVR, and then he leaves. And this adds to the timeline of at 2:05, he backs up his SUV from the garage and he leaves. So at 1:30 to 2 o'clock. So he turns off the DVR at 1:30 and he leaves at 2 o'clock. So
And isn't that amazing? That one piece of evidence that took months to get in went
mhm.
through went through a whole hearing just on that,
Yep.
and was denied by the judge, tossed out completely for no warrant,
Yep. By
and then
Lemieux, by Judge Lemieux, the trial judge. He was the one that denied it.
went to the appeals court, which is
Mhm.
the first step, which is automatic, and they held it up,
Mhm.
okay? But
Mm-hmm.
then the prosecution, and they don't usually do this, they fought hard. They said, nope, it's going to the state Supreme Court.
Yep.
And we want them to look at it again because there was a fire on. There were firemen on the scene. There was water everywhere. How
Mm-hmm.
could you hold the police to this high a standard in that situation? And sure
Mm-hmm.
enough, the Supreme said you're right,
Mm-hmm.
because Judge Lamo was right if you're looking at just the garage.
Mm-hmm.
The fire for the garage was out when they got there, right? They only
Mm-hmm.
saw the remnants of it, the
Mm-hmm.
smudge on the car, the gas
Mm-hmm.
can, the footprints. There was
Right.
no active fire, right?
Right. Right.
But they're
Yeah.
forgetting about Judge Lamo didn't take the whole scene into his decision. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
mention it. He didn't and so the Supreme Court said that's where you're wrong,
Mm-hmm.
because law enforcement has the whole scene to deal with. And this is why they
Mm-hmm.
had, and plus, did he not give them permission? He did
He did.
talk to
Yeah.
them about it. And so I think it was an appropriate overturn, and it is a linchpin to the timeline now,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it? It
It.
proves his alibi is not
Yeah.
an alibi.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of those moments that you can't deny what you're seeing. First and foremost, you see Paul show up in the screen, and then second later, dead. You have to question, why on earth would you be doing that at 1:30 in the morning? What are you doing,
It's
and
when
why would you
you're
do that?
supposedly sleeping, but you're around your house being a very, very busy man. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
everywhere.
Yeah. So it just it's just one of those bricks, that just keeps building and building and building. And it's like you
Mhm.
said, it was very important. It's the linchpin. It sets up everything that happens afterwards. And you have to question why. Why would you do that? Why would you do that, Paul? Why would you do that? So.
Mhm.
All right. So that's day 6. So let's see. Let me just see if there's any questions that are involving that. Let's see. Just kind of go through. Okay, this has to do with. So Nick asks, do you think the smoking gun is the blood on the burnt pants?
The smoking gun. Well, it was one of the most interesting parts of the case because there was a 3-week hearing on whether or not to let that evidence even in,
Mm-hmm.
because some of that blood on the pants was tested by a new laboratory that could do probabilistic genotyping. In other words, take a very small drop of blood and be able to get more than one person out of it, like when it's mixed component. A lot of the blood on those genes wasn't able to be identified one way or the other because there was more than one contributor, and the
Mm-hmm.
technology wasn't that advanced. But this new technology is able to do that. In those blood spots that they sent out to that outside laboratory that they had the big hullabaloo about,
Mm-hmm.
actually proved that it was both Paul Caneiro and Sophia Caneiro, and one with Jesse Caneiro.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way to deny that blood from the children is on those genes, along with blood from Paul Caneiro. So as long as they want to say that maybe those genes were worn by somebody else, they would have
Mm-hmm.
had to stab Paul Caneiro or drag him through the crime scene to
Mm-hmm.
get that blood on them. And
Yep.
so it's really kind of really difficult for the defense to deny that. But you can rest assured, if they had a 3-week hearing on it,
Mm-hmm.
that they're definitely going to fight it tooth and nail. And they still have Christopher Godin on the defense team, and he
Mm-hmm.
is the forensic scientist expert for the
Mm-hmm.
public defender's office that fought tooth and nail to keep this out
Mm-hmm.
through that 3 weeks. And he will, I'm hoping to see him there,
Mm-hmm.
because that would mean it's fair if he comes in and give the jury the other side of it. But it's going to be tough for the judge because he has to keep it to what was already pre-decided before pre-trial that is
Mm-hmm.
coming in. So they
Right.
can only attack the technology so far.
Mm-hmm.
They are allowed to say things to the jury like, this is the first time in New Jersey it's been allowed in court, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
things like that. They're going
Yeah.
to say, like, what were the things that were contested that we had a problem with? Like, they're going to be allowed to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but I think DNA with a jury is very solid stuff most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's blood. How did the blood get there?
Yeah.
Like, if
Yeah.
you were
Even
on
if
the jury, do you care how they tested it? when they finally say that that's what it is, it's his blood, it's the child's blood, once they hear that,
Right. How,
nothing else matters.
how do you, if you're the defense, how do you spin that and say, like you're trying, like you were saying, um, the kid's blood is on there. So you had to be there at the crime scene, and then to get Paul's blood on there as well, you would have had to somehow extract blood from him. So
I don't fight that. I fight on the weight of the evidence.
you
I
know,
fight on that is what the prosecution wants you to see, but does that evidence actually mean anything? This is how they acquired it. This is the new technology. Do you know
mhm,
anything about it? Do you understand it? No. Like,
mhm,
does it actually mean anything? No.
mhm,
Like, I would take it on the weight of the evidence. Try to get the jury not to put so much weight on what it means. Like
mhm,
smudge it a bit, because
right.
that's really all they have. There is no scenario that makes any sense.
No, yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. You have the blood of two victims, and then the blood of the defendant. That's enough for me right there. That I would be like, I don't need anything more than that.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't
I
know,
mean,
how's the defense going to spin that?
she
How?
goes on, like, "Did you test for fingerprints? Did you do this? Did you do that?"
Yeah,
He's like, "It's a fire scene." "No, I didn't."
right,
"No, I didn't." "Oh, he did see some blood on a door jamb, and he did test that. It just happened to be one of the firefighters got injured, and it
right.
was his blood." He did due diligence. I don't know how she thought that was a gotcha moment, because that actually made them look really good,
Yeah, the
you
blood
know?
that we did find visibly, we tested, and no, we didn't do luminol, right? I think she asked him if they did
Yeah.
luminol, and he's like, no, there was no reason. It was an arson scene. It wasn't a nobody died.
Right.
There's no reason to do
Yeah.
luminol.
So here she is, she's complaining that they're only looking at Paul Caneiro, but then she's complaining that they didn't investigate him as a murder suspect from day one, and try
Right,
to look for blood and everything. Like,
right,
yes, so that didn't wash at all. Like, that's
right.
pretty frustrating. You can't have it both ways. Like, yeah.
Yep, agreed. And Hell Rider, do you think him turning off the DVR was damaging? We kind of talked about that,
It
but
is one
yeah.
of the key thing for me, it sets everything in motion. It proves intent.
Hmm.
It
Yep,
absolutely proves intent, which is necessary,
yep.
for the motive, and also, for the murder.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
It
Yeah,
shows
yeah.
his alibi, that he lied. It shows that he was not forthcoming. It shows to, turning off the DVR shows to the pattern of guilt, to where his mind was at. Like,
Hmm.
what is that, term? I'm trying to think of the term.
Consciousness of guilt,
Yes,
or
consciousness of guilt. I'm
Mhm.
covering my tracks before I even do anything.
Right,
Consciousness of guilt. There you
right.
go. No, it's premeditated also. These
Absolutely.
murders, obviously, if you're turning off the DVR so nobody sees you leave the house, are
Hmm.
premeditated.
Yep. Yeah. Leave the house for sure. Come back, obviously, and then set the fire to that part of the garage because I think they probably would have because it was that. I think you would have seen him set fire to that garage at that point as well from that vantage
Oh,
point.
yeah, because now he
Yeah.
can come home and nobody can see him coming home. Nobody sees him setting his own fire. Like, and
Hmm.
he can set up an alibi, and that somebody else may have done this, and still collect money on the home. Like,
Hmm.
and still get money coming in, you know?
Yeah. So this question by Carol leads us into day 7. Um, all the firearms in Paul's house. I actually I lost count. I lost count, but I think we had about 20. About 20. What do you think? That was kind of the day 7. That was the highlight of day 7. What do you think about that?
I think it's a pro and a con.
Yeah.
I know that the defense is putting it out there like a gotcha. Why aren't you mentioning all the fire alarms that they have? Like, look at this one. Do you know what it is? Look at this one. Do you know what it is? They
Hmm.
don't care. Like, that just means that maybe he didn't want to burn up his family while he set a fire on purpose. Like,
Hmm.
okay, all right. So, like, he didn't want to burn up his family. That doesn't mean he didn't set the fire.
Right. Yeah. So we had carryover from Lieutenant Catalone, and he categorized all of the ammunition, the locker that had um, the handguns, the rifles. He had an Uzi.
So
He,
many.
he had like thousands and thousands of rounds of ammunition. Um, And then we went into John Lightbody, love that last name, and he was the fire investigator. He was actually the fire investigator. So,
Right.
what
But
do you?
he was hired by the insurance company for the home fire in Ocean, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, yeah. Chubb, I think, was the insurance.
Mhm.
Chubb, yeah. Um, so he concludes that the fire started below the master bedroom and basically climbed up, and then we found out that the master bedroom was where Susan was staying. And as you said, I think at the beginning of the stream, if you found out that your husband set a fire right above, right below your bedroom, and it's 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, how would you feel? you know.
I it kind of attested, like, I don't know, like, neither Susan Caneiro, his wife, or his adult children, the girls, have attended any of the pretrial stuff until the last one
Hmm.
before this trial actually took place. So
Hmm.
I don't know what was going on before that. They weren't very supportive or that way. What happens behind scenes, whether they're visiting him in prison or not, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Well,
Hmm.
for me, I mean, I don't know. Who
Hmm.
knows? I mean, that's the personal part of it that we're never really going to know that dynamic.
Right. Right.
Why he came to live home again all of a sudden when he still obviously has the connection with the other woman, because after all, two was it 2 days or 3 days before the alleged crime,
Hmm.
he's having dinner for his daughter, for her daughter's birthday. They're out together and celebrating. So
Hmm.
it's not like the friendship ended and he went back home to the wife. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know. What did prompt him to move back home? To me, it's more suspicious than it is reasonable.
Hmm.
But,
Right.
do you really think that any testimony from anyone from his immediate family is going to give us information on that? I doubt it. I
Mm.
seriously doubt it.
Yeah. Yeah. And does that really need to come in? Do we need to know what they're,
Mm-mm.
this is about Paul and Keith. It's, I mean, it could play into his stress, character, what was his demeanor during was he thinking clearly? Was he thinking straight? He's going through this divorce. It's getting
Mhm.
messy or whatever. Yeah. But that really, I don't think that's going to come in.
I don't think that they're thinking about how it could have happened, because after all, he woke up and he got them out of the house. And,
Mhm.
so, you know,
Yeah.
if he wanted something to happen to them, he wouldn't have woke them up.
Yeah.
With
His
the
his
stuff.
wife and daughters have been, right? She's kind of strawberry blonde, Susan.
Yeah, she's like blondish with a little strawberry to it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So she's been there, I think, every day. I think I've seen her every day.
I think I've seen the daughters there most days too.
Are they
Yeah.
there as well? Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So day 7. So his conclusion was it was an incendiary fire, which means it was set on purpose, purposely set with ignitable fluid with 2 points of origin. So the one was the basement, which is where that's like the
Mhm.
unfinished part of the basement, where he had his workbench. He had all of his firearms there. He had a locker full of
Mhm.
rifles and stuff. That's also where the pile of clothing was found, the jeans and the glove.
Mhm.
And then the other point of origin, I guess, it was the garage, which didn't really go anywhere, right? It just did minimal
Mhm.
damage, and there was a smudge on his
Mhm.
SUV. Um,
And it's, he started it on the outside of the house, on in the well, right by the window,
mhm,
in the well, right there where it would go into the basement, where the most damaging evidence about the alleged other crime in Colts Neck existed,
mhm,
which to me is pretty damning. For a set fire for it to be there. He could have set it anywhere, but obviously he wanted that basement destroyed, you
mhm,
know. So
yeah,
even though it was like right above the bedroom, I think looking at it from Paul Caneiro's perspective, it was more about getting the basement to be extremely damaged, especially the unfinished part of the basement, where the
mhm,
most incriminating evidence against him was. He knows that he put bullets there. He knows that he put the gloves there, in the pants there. He
mhm,
knows the shirts there. He knows everything. Like, he knows what's there,
mhm.
and that's the part that he wants completely damaged
Right.
in
So
that. Yeah.
You're right. It was set on the outside. Why didn't he just set the clothes on fire and let that be the point of
But that
origin?
would be too obvious that it was not someone from the outside. That would
Oh, and a
mean they
gas.
had to gain entrance into the house and
Right,
would
right.
make him more of a suspect before not,
No, you're right.
in my
Yeah.
humble opinion.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, he was maybe intimating it was may have been a gas leak. But
Mhm.
you're right. Yeah, it would have been somebody trying to take out the Canero brothers. So yeah, you're
Right,
right.
and
No,
so
you're
you would
absolutely right.
set it outside. All the fires would be from the outside. You don't have to get into the house, and you just want a bad thing to happen. Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely. All right, Hell Riders, cheersing us. Cheers to you. Have a good weekend.
Mhm.
All right, so it's okay. So that's day 7, and that was really good testimony. All of that testimony, which again was
He was
only
excellent explaining why he thought what he thought. He didn't really give defense much to challenge,
no, yeah,
and he
and
was very good when challenged, like, he had an answer, you know?
even though we only saw it was carryover from day 6 with Lieutenant Catalone and then John Lightbody, so only 2 witnesses, and again today there was only 1 witness, even though they ended early. Um, it was very strong testimony from both of those days. Like a lot of times you'll have just one person on the stand and it just kind of can get a little monotonous, or sometimes I
Mhm.
lose focus a little bit, but I was able to maintain my focus and be really engaged with this testimony, because this was really, to me, this was really important. We got the timeline, we got the conclusion of the fire. Then today was we can now move on to day 8, which was all the texts
Right.
and such. So I thought, even though there was only 1 or 2 witnesses yesterday and 1 today, um, I thought it was good. It was really good for the state. What do you think? How do you think the state's looking right now?
I think now that they've got the evidence, the chain of custody evidence in there, and we know what we're looking at, I think it looks really good. Except for, like, I really thought tech was going to be so much more.
Hmm.
Unless there's another tech person coming, maybe he just did this part of it. Well, they really just confirmed the emails in the text
Hmm.
messages. And was there any surprises? No, not really.
Hmm.
Except for the messages that Keith sent to Paul's phone. That was something we didn't know about
Hmm.
before. But we did know about all this other stuff because of pretrial hearings going back and forth. But
Hmm.
they did take a laptop in another phone and all this other stuff. And there was some stuff
Hmm.
in pretrial about it. But we didn't hear about anything on there. Except
Hmm.
for Monica Massalone mentioning that we didn't find anything in his Google search about how to commit a crime and do this or
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
Um, which that was a funny exchange because he kind of said he's never actually had anything like that happen in his investigation. It's like TV stuff, but that
Absolutely.
kind of stuff plays to the jury, like,
Sure.
because
Sure.
they're watching TV, they're watching crime shows on TV for sure, you know, so they know what she meant,
Right.
but, you know,
Yeah.
I,
Well, what more do you think? I know that it's this is a weird question. I'll ask it anyway. Like, what more would you expect from the cell phone extraction? And it's hard to answer that question, I would think, because you don't know what you're missing until you identify it, or it's
until you miss it. I
told
would have liked to have seen more on what he was planning ahead to do with the money. I would love to have seen
Okay.
emails with some property investments in other states or out of the country. I would
Mhm.
have loved to have seen like a line of stuff about that, a little case about what he planned to do once he got all the money. I
Mhm.
think it like, but then again, now I'm dealing in TV drama world, and isn't that a
Right.
perfect picture? I'm trying to end this story, but I think
Right.
that would have that would have kind of put a nail in it if he
Right.
was already spending the money in his head, because I think he's that kind of guy. Look at all of his expenses, and he's got to have the best car, and they're
Yep.
traveling all like he likes that high life, even if
Mhm.
he doesn't have the money to support it. So I would
Mhm.
imagine in his mind he's already spending all that money he's going to get,
Mhm.
because Corey's in jail and he's got 3 million and he's
Right.
divorced now and traveling around the world with his friend. You know,
Right. Yeah. Well,
are
I'm
they
wondering.
moving to Colombia? Did he look for properties in Colombia?
Right.
Does he have a future plan? I would have liked to have seen that.
Yeah. So then, maybe it doesn't exist. That's why the state didn't bring it up. Um,
Probably.
or B, it exists, but it was not allowed in from pretrial. I don't remember that being in any
I
pretrial.
don't think it came up in pretrial because I was definitely all over pretrial because that's
Yeah,
my thing.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
that sets the tone for the case. Like
Mhm.
that's the legal fascination that I have with the process. Like what
Mhm.
gets in and what doesn't. Like those are
Absolutely.
where the real arguments with lawyers happen. Like you want to
Mhm.
hear some lawyer arguments, watch pretrial. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. So
Oh,
then through Detective, let's see, Migliorisi. I love that last name, Migliorisi. Oh, I got cats behind.
miglioriti. It sounds like a delicious pasta dish or something. Like
Yeah.
looking
Hold
at
on.
it.
I got cats turning off my computer screen. All right.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. All right. So we have okay. So the phone charger. So now the timeline is pretty much filled in. I don't know if we'll get any more. Um,
Didn't we talk about that on day one, Chris?
what's that? Cats turning off my computer.
No, leaving your cell phone somewhere as an alibi. Like,
Yeah. Hold on a sec. You have got nope, 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 nope,
weren't we
nope.
talking about maybe his cell phone would ping off like the towers on the way to Colts Neck or whatever, and we get him nailed? Is
Yeah.
it more than likely that he would just not bring it with him? Like, leave it somewhere, like
Yes. Yes,
Murdoch
we
did.
did. We
Yeah.
did talk about that. Yes, and sure enough, that's what he did.
And you know what? Did we not, if we did not have the picture from the DVR of him turning it off, that would have been really good.
Hmm.
They wouldn't
Yeah.
have been able to like there would be a lot of doubt of whether he got out of that bed and was roaming around the house, wouldn't there?
Yeah.
Because he had his phone with him. Right.
Yeah. So from Detective Brian, uh, so 127, the phone is plugged into a charger.
Mhm.
128, he turns off the DVR,
Hmm.
and then we have the video that we talked about of him going backing up.
So so that means he plugged his phone into the charger in the garage?
No, no, I mean he probably in his kitchen, and then he walks to the garage.
And then he walked to the garage? Okay, because
Yeah.
like, they never said where the phone was, did they?
They didn't say where it was plugged in. I don't think you can. I don't. You can't tell where it was plugged in. It was just plugged into a charger. So yeah, we don't know where, but it's only a minute. It's only a minute. I mean,
Mhm.
the house isn't that big. I think he could walk from one end to the other in a minute. And then we get to those texts of Keith to Paul. 315, 317, 318. I use the manual switch, not even sure what to do. The generator says AC failure. Going outside. So that was that's truly the last text that last communication that Keith ever makes. So
And so now you know why Keith was up too. He's getting alerts and messages on the system. I
yep.
think that was a question in the chat, like how did Keith know to get up if the power's out and everything and he's sleeping in bed?
Hmm.
His phone told him that there was something that the generator was off and there's no power to it. AC means electric, right? Like that was
Hmm.
what was wrong with it. Like he's getting messages for sure
Yeah,
from his security system.
sure. Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, like you said, he was very tech savvy. I mean, he's a computer guy for crying out loud. So
Mhm.
um, and then finally, then the phone is plugged back in. I'm sorry, it's unplugged. So he at 4:54. So the fire alarm goes off at 4:48, and then 4:54, he unplugs his phone. So we have
That
basically
that's
from
why I wanna
1:40.
know where that phone is. I want somebody to ask where that phone was, but they have to ask Paul. He would be the only one that knows, so unless he takes a stand.
Yep, yeah, he would be the only one. He would be the only one. Yeah. So
He
um,
obviously had it with him when he got the family up and went outside. He had his phone with him.
yeah, well, the alarm. Okay, so the fire. He says he woke up to the fire alarm. I have at 4:48, the fire alarm goes off, and 4:54 he unplugs his phone, and then I think 5:02 is when Caitlin makes the call. I think
Call.
I think it's
So, if
5:02.
his fire alarm went off, why didn't he call 911?
Well, then there's that. Let's see.
Because the longer it burns, the more evidence gets destroyed.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, Officer David Marino was a first responder at 5:02. He got the call, possible fire structure.
Mhm.
So call came in. So it went to the county first at 4:59, and then 5:02 is when the call came in. So I want to see when did Caitlin make the phone call? So 5:01 she called. 5:01 Caitlin called. So the alarm goes off at 4:50. I'm sorry, 4:48, and then he unplugs his phone at 4:54, and then at 5:01 Caitlin calls. So he gets it. He gets the well. The alarm goes off, right? He said he was awoken to the alarm.
Mhm.
He then gets his phone. Maybe it's upstairs in the
That's
bedroom then.
15 minutes. I mean, that's almost 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. That he knows the alarm went off and somebody else calls in the fire, a neighbor
Mhm.
calls in the fire. That's 15 minutes. He knows the house is on fire. Okay. And
Yeah.
now, granted, he's getting his family out. So I understand that. You get your family out and then you call. Like
Right.
houses don't matter, people do. I get
Right.
that. And
Right.
that's a valid reason for the delay.
Right. Now,
Um,
Heather Cap, who is the neighbor, she said she saw.
I was
Um,
just thinking that.
you remember
Yeah.
her? Let's see. She
Yes,
said,
and two men dressed in dark with baseball caps
yeah,
lurking around
4:30.
the property. Yeah.
Yeah. So she said at 4:30. Um, so when
I
did he
think it
come
was
home?
Paul in his shadow. That's exactly what I think it is now.
Yeah. 4:08 he arrives back at the house. So 4:08 he arrives back. 4:30 she sees two men running around. 4:48 Paul gets a fire alert. Or no, he's woken up to the fire alarm. So I think yeah, he
But
said the fire alarm went off. So he said he told the fire or the law enforcement that he woke up to a fire alarm. So
mhm.
yeah. So all right. Now let's get to
I
let's see if
don't
there's
think this woman saw what she thinks she saw. I think she saw movement out there. I'm pretty sure she saw the shadow of Paul Caneiro on the outside of the house. I'm almost positive.
mm-hmm,
I'm just not sure she saw two men knocking on the door and doing light. I think the flash of the light was
mm-hmm,
seen. And I think that that was Paul with the garage.
mm-hmm,
Absolutely.
mm-hmm,
I also think that she may have seen something earlier than she said. She's being very, you see, I don't know, maybe it's my human nature. When people talk in absolutes, like they use words like always, never, and absolute, I have
mm-hmm,
immediate doubt because common sense and normal reasoning says there's always possibility that it isn't what it is. Okay. But she
right.
is so sure of it that I have major doubts that she saw what she saw. I'm
Mm-hmm,
sure she saw a figure. I've got a good, based on all the other evidence, I'm leaning towards the fact that that was Paul. There's shrubbery out there, there's buildings out there, there's the way that light hits things. Maybe she saw Paul in his shadow and thinks it's two different figures. I don't know,
could be.
but I'm not sure that there were two people at 4:30 out there when
Mm-hmm,
we know Paul was just out there and the alarm's going off at 4:48.
right. And I'm looking at Mr. Harrington. He's also a neighbor. He said he heard loud voices. He didn't see two people. He just said
He heard
uh,
voices. Yeah.
someone grabbed a fire extinguisher and walked to the front of the house. So he doesn't say two people.
Wait, somebody grabbed a fire extinguisher and ran to the front door.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? Like,
Uh, but why would Paul want to? If
well,
that was
that just means it's neighbors who said that the fire started, and that yes, this woman called it in 501, but obviously the fire started before 4:48. Because doesn't a fire have to produce some smoke and some heat and get going before a fire alarm goes off?
yeah, she says
Okay,
4:30. She said she
and she
saw.
says 4:30.
Yeah,
So
she said 4:30.
obviously they may, and since it is on the outside of the house, okay,
Mm-hmm,
since it is on the outside of the house, you know, and what
mm-hmm,
the way Paul loves that Porsche, I wouldn't doubt if he's the one with the fire extinguisher. And as she saw him, he lit the fire on the Porsche to start the whole investigation thing, but he didn't, but he put it out because
mm-hmm.
damn, it's his Porsche.
Right, right, right,
you
right.
know, I mean, I just have doubts about that witness. She was too, there's such a thing as too solid and too adamant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
I don't think she's lying. I just don't think she saw what she she saw what she saw, like the way she's interpreting what she saw. I don't know if that's exactly what it was.
Right. I'm just looking through some of these questions. Let's see. Okay. So Jennifer's asking, did Paul think the smoke alarms were connected to the Wi-Fi?
I that I know why they're asking that. It's all these questions that Andy and Miss Bastelum keep putting in there about the Wi-Fi, like as if it actually changes anything.
Right. That he actually turned off the Wi-Fi because he thought it was draining, or they turned off the DVR because he thought it was draining the Wi-Fi. Right? Didn't she bring that up? I think.
Except for that, very specifically, the detective answered her and said it's hardwired. It has nothing to do with the Wi-Fi.
Right. Right. But that doesn't make sense. That you wouldn't disconnect the DVR.
If there was a way to connect with Bluetooth, I can understand that, but you just turn
Yeah.
the Bluetooth part off. And I think that
Yeah.
Paul Caneiro is savvy enough. His brother owns a tech company. He knows this. You don't
Mhm.
have to turn off the power to the system to dismantle its connection to Bluetooth. Just like
Right.
your phone, you can have Bluetooth or not, right?
Mhm.
If you think the Bluetooth is draining something or you don't got a good connection, you turn it off.
True.
And you
Yeah.
still have phone service, right? And you still, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Oh, this is a good question. Sharon, what do you think of Paul's demeanor for the whole trial? We kind of talked a little bit about that, where he's very stoic, but what do you think?
I think if I was on trial for all of these charges, that's exactly what I would look like.
Hmm.
I wouldn't give you anything to go by.
Hmm.
Sometimes I do say he does pay a lot of attention when they're in sidebar and he's listening to everything. He makes a lot of notes.
Hmm.
I would say today in particular, he looked a bit somber. I think he knows the case is very well presented. I
Hmm.
think when they finally hit with the information of the physical evidence, you could see his demeanor, like the corners of his mouth are going a little farther down. He's no
Hmm.
longer just stoic. He looks almost a bit stunned or I would say morose, like sad.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like
I
like
wonder what's going to happen when the autopsy photos come in, because that that usually gets people. So I wonder.
the cynic in me says it's a perfect time for tears, like, and we
Yeah.
probably will see them.
Will he look
But I can't
away?
imagine. I would not take away from him that he actually cared about Keith and he cared about that family.
Hmm.
I think he did love them. I think there was a strong bond there, and that this was desperation. So I would expect and I would hope, as a human being, he does get emotional,
Hmm.
because I noticed that every time they mention Sophie, he gets a little twitch, like he gets
Hmm.
a little. The only time he cried is when they talked, like, the tears. I don't
Hmm.
think he cried, but the semblance of tears appeared was in
Yeah.
discussing those bodies, and it was when they got to the children.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these are his niece and nephews, and family is everything. And I know these brothers. You said they've been tight since they were uh, kids, and they grew up. They were in business together. Yes,
Mhm.
they argued, but they're brothers. And yeah, I have no doubt that Paul loved Keith and Jennifer and Sophia and Jesse, and that's what makes it just so much hard to understand, like, what he did, to them. It's it's hard for me to wrap my head around that.
It is, and that's why I say, like, I went back and looked at some older commentary I did like a couple years ago with another annihilation, a family annihilation, which was the Murdaugh trial.
Hmm.
And it was hard to understand how he could do something when he obviously loved them so much. Well,
Hmm.
sometimes it's trying to deal with the disappointment they would have in you based
Hmm.
on you want them to respect you and admire you and love you in return. It is
Hmm.
something you can't deal with. And I think that that's the bridge that Paul Caneiro was able to cross. I don't
Hmm.
think it's comfortable in the aftermath, you know. I
Yeah.
think the last thing he would want to be known for is the killer of his brother's family.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's a shame. This is a good question by Terry. Heather is the neighbor across the street. Um, we haven't seen any video from her point of view. If she's able to see them, or no, wait, no. Jonathan Harrington was across the street. She was a side neighbor, right? Because she was able to
Right.
see the corner. So
She
she
was
was
on the side. She saw the corner of the house, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess well she didn't have I guess she didn't have cameras. I guess she didn't have cameras.
Or they don't save it. Like some people like to, it's well, they were asking that day. So yeah.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think if they was or they don't. Not everybody does. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Well, he was an interesting Harrington was an interesting witness.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the trial is really definitely picking up momentum for me. The bricks are being laid. I am I always I do like to listen to the defense side if they do present a case. But right now, my personal opinion, I feel like the state has already met their burden, and we haven't even heard from DNA. We haven't heard from GPS about the SUV. We haven't heard from the medical examiner.
Mhm.
So I think already that I've personally have seen enough. But I know you're supposed to reserve
Mhm.
judgment until the end, but I tend not to. I,
Mhm.
I tend
You
to be like,
think
yeah,
that's because you know the results of the DNA testing already?
yeah, that's true. Well,
If you
no, I
look at it
mean,
from just the jury, really all you have is the timeline, right? So
yeah,
really all you have based on what we've heard, because no one who tested any of the evidence has testified yet, except for
hmm
digital forensics we heard from today, right? And
hmm
we heard from the arson guy. We already know he's hands down guilty of the financial crimes. I don't think the jury will have any problem with that. But when
hmm
we're talking about the Colts Neck event, we're talking about that fire in
hmm
those homicides. All right.
hmm
All they have is the timeline.
yeah,
They have
true.
nothing physical yet to go by
hmm
as far as being, they have the possibility, but they don't know what that evidence means yet. They know it's there. They haven't
Right.
heard about what it means to testing. They haven't heard from the medical examiner. They haven't heard, they heard in opening statements how they think the crime occurred, but they don't have a crime scene and reenactment. They
hmm
don't have any of that. They don't have DNA.
hmm
Testing. They don't have an actual arsonist specialist come out
hmm
and say, yes, that fire was absolutely. They know it was set.
hmm
They said so. Well,
hmm
do they have anything concrete? So I think the defense still can put some weight there.
hmm
I think that for sure right now you're right. Is he guilty of arson for Ocean?
hmm
100%. They're going to think, yep, he did that.
yeah,
Is he guilty of the financial crimes that he's also charged with? Absolutely. They're going to know he did that.
hmm
But the big one, what are the big ones? Life in prison for the murders. Number
hmm
one, a jury always hesitates on life, right? They
hmm
want to be sure beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't think I would be right now
hmm
because don't based on what they saw. I would
hmm
be leaning that way, definitely.
hmm
But I would then be looking at everything even more critical. Once I mean, do you think once you're on the jury, you start leaning towards guilty? You gotta catch yourself when it's so early, and you gotta go. Wait a minute, I need to see everything. Then you start like hesitating and looking the other way a little bit, like putting more doubt on things.
hmm
I actually think that's the way it goes. I think they make up their mind early, and then they fight against it the whole rest of the time
hmm
to make sure their verdict is 100% like what they believe.
yeah. Yeah, I served twice, and the one that I can remember it was one was civil and one was criminal, and the civil one was the one where it was a eye doctor. Well, this guy had gotten shot with a paper clip in the eye when he was young, right? So he had problems with his eye. He wasn't blind, but he had problems with his eye. So he had a lot of surgeries in his early years, early
Mhm,
20s, teens, 20s. And so he went to a doctor and he put in a permanent contact. And what happened was he left like a haptic or whatever. He left a part of the contact broke off or stayed. So the doctor said, "Hey, you have to come back in," and he put him under and he did surgery again. And the doctor didn't tell him, and that's why he was suing him. He's like, "Well, I'm suing you because you didn't tell me, and my eyesight, all this stuff." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this doctor is guilty."
mhm.
So, and I was fully on guilty, but then the instructions were and ultimately it came out that the guy who was who had the surgery, he worked at a printer and he was a pressman, and his he could still do his job. He could still do his job, and his eyesight actually improved. So this doctor actually helped him. So we're like, oh my God, we felt so sorry for this guy.
Mhm.
It was more because the doctor lied to him and just say, hey, come on back in. We're gonna do some post-op. And he didn't tell him that he left part of, this thing in his eye. So we're like, oh, can we just give this guy like some kind of money? But the instructions were written that A, his vision improved, B, he could still do his job. So we're like,
Mhm.
we found the doctor not guilty or not negligent. So
We can
I
see
was
all
fully
that.
on, what's that?
That's all pre-trial. That's the defense really doing their job.
Yeah. I mean, I felt so sorry for the guy. Like I said, I really wanted to give him some money because I felt like that the doctor was really
Mhm.
shady in the fact that he didn't tell him why he was coming back in. But
Mhm.
by all accounts, his eyesight was better, and he still could do his job. So, but I was like, oh, that doctor's guilty, but I couldn't. The
Well,
instructions.
he was. He was morally and ethically guilty and against his hypothetical, but
Yep.
legally, was he no, probably because he's not charged with the crime of misleading him.
Yeah. Yeah. So
He was
it was more.
charged
Yeah.
with the
It was a
crime of,
civil.
harming him in some way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But he
So he was being so the gentleman was suing him civilly. I guess it was because he didn't tell him that he
mhm.
came back in to get this thing out. So yeah, it was more like ethically and morally. So anyway. So all right, 5:30 here on the East Coast. What do you have planned for the weekend? You getting ready for the storm on Monday? Let's
Well,
talk about that.
like most people around here, I'm just making sure we have all the supplies that we need for the weekend so we don't have to go out.
Hmm.
Nothing's supposed to start until tomorrow night really bad, but basically, I got a couple of good books. I've got some things I want to watch, and I'm hoping the power stays on. That's about it. It's like,
That
you
that
know,
sounds good. That sounds good. So they're going to be off definitely on Monday.
mhm.
Tuesday, probably it seems like maybe 6, 7 inches, which again, Jersey, you guys can handle that. Take a day to shovel, get the snow
True.
plows
It's
out.
mostly the cleanup. I mean, we have to worry most about the power because of the ice. They're really, really worried about the
Mm,
temperature in the ice.
hmm.
That seems to be the main concern. I mean, we get snow
Yeah.
like this. It's no big deal. Like,
Right. Yeah. It's
although
supposed to
they're saying
snow.
5, and yesterday they said 11, and 2 days before that they said 14.
Okay.
That really made me worry, and now they're saying 5. Well, this happens a lot in Jersey, like, they'll
Hmm.
predict a really bad storm, and then
Hmm.
nothing will happen. Like, nothing.
Right. I
Like,
did see that it was going to start as snow, then go to mix, and then back to snow. So that's going to
mhm.
be snow, and then a layer of ice, and then a layer of snow, and that's
That
never
makes
good.
the snow very, very heavy, and that's where the
Hmm.
damage comes to power lines and stuff
Yep.
like that. Yep.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed. All right. Well, stay safe. We are going to be streaming on Monday, so if you want to join us, I'm just going to
Oh,
be
yeah. If I have
showing.
power, I'll come hang in the chat. I do love your chat. They're also, they ask really great questions and just, like, really respectful,
Mhm.
and they've got great humor with all of this stuff, humor is mandatory. I mean, you gotta keep humor to be able to get through some of this stuff, so really great bunch of
Absolutely.
people. I do like
Absolutely.
chatting with them.
Oh,
It's
good.
it's
Good. Well, we love it when you are in our chat, and you bring a lot of knowledge, not only to the local scene, but just in general. Your knowledge of trials is fantastic. So
What
we like
I do
to.
love it. I think it's my passion, like, and I will be honest, I'm not a lawyer, but I make sure that I research
Mhm.
every legal take I'm taking. Like, and I just like about them doing the chain of custody for
Mhm.
all of that evidence. I'm like, why? Why? I actually researched everything and found out that it's absolutely mandatory that they have to do it that way. If it
Mhm.
takes 2 days or a week to get it all in, they have to do it that way. It is
Mhm.
mandated by their code, by Article 9. So what are you
Right.
going to do? You know,
Sure.
um, but all of these things, like, I find it fascinating. When you have a hobby, and
Absolutely. Yeah. No. No.
yeah,
I
it's like,
agree. I agree with
yeah.
that. Yeah. So, all right. I will let you go. Be safe, and
Thank you.
we will see you. We'll see you Monday, I guess. And
Yeah.
definitely chat. Please support Claire and her channel. I just pulled
Yeah.
up
Yeah,
your
I saw a
channel there.
couple of my mods and people in the chat, and I've been telling them, well, they already know because, like, since you started this channel, I've been promoting you because of the way that you do it. I was so aligned with how you guys do it. It was like, it was definitely my vibe for true crime. So, like,
Nice.
I'm really glad to see how well you guys have grown too. It's wonderful to see,
Thank you.
that you
Appreciate
guys
that.
are out here
Appreciate your
doing it.
support and thank you. Thank you for that. And yeah, hopefully, well, we still have like 8 more weeks of this, so I'm looking
This
forward.
is fun. So I get to come back next week. Yay.
Yes. And then we have Black Mirror. We have to do a Black Mirror episode
Yes, if
yeah,
Charlie Brooker gets that season out, absolutely, or
yeah,
anything else. I was thinking, Chris, if you ever wanna do, like, a library chat on any of the other aspects, was when you think about true crime, at least the way I do it, if you take a look at my channel, I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but it's a little broad. Like, I do
mm,
library chats on subjects that have to do with this, but don't have to do with this, but they're
right,
really relatable to a lot of online stuff. So,
right.
like, if you ever come up with a topic, you know, and we could toss it around and do some research. And I just
Awesome.
love having the discussions like this.
I
Like,
love it. I love it.
you know?
No, that sounds great. Let me think about that. We're in a Stranger Things, mode right now. We watched the final season, but now we're going back and we're watching. Now we're back up to season 4. But yeah, no, that sounds great. I'll definitely keep that in mind, and I want to do more discussions with you. I really appreciate your mind and talking, and I think it's a lot of fun talking with you.
Oh, that's such a compliment. Thank you. It's so
Yeah,
nice. You can
sure.
now I'm all blushy and I can't talk anymore. I gotta go.
Oh, all right, Claire. Be safe, and we'll see you on Monday.
Okay, see you guys in
All
the
right,
chat. Have a great one.
take
Good
care.
night.
All right, Claire. Definitely, thank you for joining us. Really, really appreciate your insight and your knowledge. It's fantastic. So, all right, you guys. With that, I will say good night. Be safe. Storms are starting in Texas, in Oklahoma, Arkansas. It's only going to be spreading and getting worse. So please, please, please take care of yourselves. Be weather aware. Hopefully, you've got all your supplies, and just be safe. And we will be streaming on Monday. It's going to be a snow day with Squeegee, and I'll be here. We'll be streaming, and I invite you guys to take pictures and videos safely if you can. I suggest getting a ruler. If you have like somewhere outside, you can put a ruler and just take some photos like every couple hours and just show us how much snow you're getting. You can email us at info@trialtvlive.com. So info@trialtvlive.com, and send us your photos and your videos, and I'll pull them up. And I'll just be trying to get live cameras from around the country, and all hell's breaking loose back there. And yeah, we'll have fun. We'll hang out. We'll just hang out and have fun. So, guys, have a great night, and be well, be safe, and we will see you on Monday.